And welcome back, everybody, to another episode. Sorry you missed me last week. Look, Ship Life is up and running full tilt. I told y'all before when I get back on board, I hope to keep it going pretty regularly. But shit is real. And shit's getting real quick. But tonight we have a guest. We have I don't even know how this happened, but y'all know the regular contributor, my boy Chad. I got my phone blowing up. Excuse me. And we have a friend. He's a better friend to Chad than me, but we're still buddies.
I don't like you very much. So.
And so JD, welcome JD, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming through Friday night, having a drink with me, and doing this show. Go ahead, introduce yourself, and just kind of give the crowd a little bit of background of yourself, and then we'll take it from there.
Cool, Josh. Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. Like, it makes me feel famous. Like, for no reason, sitting here in your garage.
It does, doesn't it? It's like almost an official studio.
Yeah, like I feel like a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm not a big deal. All right, so I'm JD. I'm a Master Chief in the Navy. I've been in 26 years. I've done about everything, there is to do in my rating. I think Josh likes to talk about how, like, not everybody's out there, kicking indoors.
Yeah.
Do that. Like, we all have our jobs. We do what we do. But I've done it. I've been around and I've had a great time, and I really do enjoy talking to people about it and mentoring and just telling the stories. Because all of my can I curse on here?
Yeah, definitely.
All of my fuck ups better help somebody else because there's tons of them.
Yeah, for sure. That's something I always talk about, right? I talk to my sailors about, like, hey, everyone's sometimes like, the best lesson is a lesson learned, from your own experience. I was telling them, no, don't. You don't have to, right? If I can tell you the story and impress upon you how bad it is to make this choice, then just believe me.
You learn more from the fuck up, right, than you ever do that, like, the best, like, oh, my best chief, oh, great. But that shithead that you worked for, that's the one you learn what not to do.
Yeah.
That's what you learn from. And those
pull the mic just a little bit closer. I'm sorry.
Right there.
Yeah.
I move a lot when I'm speaking. But
yeah.
But yeah, the fuck ups teach you way more.
Definitely.
And it's always been my, I look back on my best chiefs, and I loved them. They were great guys, but I look up at those fuck ups, and those are the guys that are like, hey, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And that's turned me into the leader I am today.
So, you said 27 years now, right? Before we were talking, you put on Master Chief right at the cusp.
Oh, yeah.
Were you at I'm sure you were prepared for retirement?
So I knew I had 6 months until I had to retire or I could stay in. I knew when the results were coming out, and I did just enough that on that day I could turn the corner and start to retire, or I'm going to stay in the Navy. But I hadn't, I just stayed on that knife edge. And it was probably 6 to 8 months of where I'm still performing my job, doing everything I need to do, but I'm not taking, like, stuff would come across my desk, and I'm like, I don't have the time for this. I can't touch this anymore. So I would, kind of push that off and handle the stuff I could. But I didn't really care either way. I just wanted to know. So I spent months, like, on this, I don't even know how to describe it, like the anxiety. And, like, as it got closer to the day, it was just getting, like, I just had to know. I didn't care.
Yeah.
I can retire, I can stay. I can retire, I can stay. So the week before I make Master Chief, I'm in Pensacola at a rating strategy council thing where all the CTM Master Chiefs are. Like, I'm a CTM Senior Chief. There's only 10 CTM Master Chiefs in the Navy. And I knew we were making one this year. So, yeah. And so, and I know the players. Like, we all know each other. So I know that hey, there's 3 or 4 other dudes who are nailing it. Like, it could be me. It could not. Who knows? So I'm sitting there, and I'm talking. Me and one of our Master Chiefs were driving to something, and he had asked a question about evals, and I said, yeah, I had a pretty good eval last time. I was senior enlisted leader. And he goes, oh, yeah, I know. I read them all recently. And he just turned and looked forward and kept driving. And I'm like, this motherfucker. That's the guy that set my board.
Yeah.
And that's all he said. He didn't, like, there was no ups, downs. There was no, and I'm just, in that moment, I kind of felt like, why would he say something?
Yeah.
The only reason he's saying something is because he didn't want me to get my hopes up. And the longer I thought about it, and me and this guy, we don't always get along, so, if he's setting my board, he's not my biggest fan. I'm like, oh, it's done. So, like, that's Thursday. Friday, I get back on Saturday, and everybody's asking me, like, hey, results coming out Monday, Tuesday. I say, I don't have it. I'm telling everybody, I don't have it. I said, I'm a pretty good source. I didn't make it. I'm cool with that, but It's not me. And everybody's like, it has to be you. It has to be. No, not me. I convinced myself.
Yeah.
Because that guy would not have said it the way he did.
The tone and everything behind it was
if I have to play poker,
no.
if I have to play poker with this guy, I'm going to eat him alive. Like I knew it at that moment. Like you can't do this. So the Monday or Tuesday morning, whatever it was, rolls around, and I'm at work. I've been working in the Chiefs mess for probably the last year. I'm the only person in there. So I'm sitting there, and I'd already told Thor, who's our CMC, I was like, hey man, if the results come out, I was like, just text me no. I said, you don't need to come. You don't need a phone call. I said, don't leave me hanging. Just text me no. Okay, man. Okay. So I'm sitting in the mess, and I'm just working. I'm in one of our team's calls. They're 7:30
Gotta love
in the morning, 8:30 in the morning. You're in your team's call, and here comes Thor walking into the mess, and he looks like Dopey Dog. I mean, he is just beat. And I look at him. He looks at me, and I'm pointing my headphones. And he goes, take your time. Gives me the motion, and he sits down at the table. I'm like, all right, let me get out of this meeting so I can get this bad news. Then his phone rings, and he goes, hey, man, I got to take this. I said, all right, I ain't going anywhere. So he leaves, and I wrap up my meeting. I'm sitting there, and I'm just, the anxiety, all of that. I'm talking months and months of this. Like, I'm just sitting on this edge. Just, I need to know, which way am I going? Staying or going? Staying or going? Staying or going? So I'm sitting there. The door opens. I look up. Here comes Thor. Here comes the chief of staff. Here comes the senior civilian. Here comes, they start lining up, and I look at them all, and Thor reaches up, pulls his Master Chief anchors off his uniform, and just tosses them to me. And I grabbed it, and I'm sitting there for a second, and I just turned into the biggest baby you ever seen. I mean, It was like tears. I'm sitting there. I'm trying to just hold it together. And like, do you have anything to say? And I'm like, I can't even talk right now. Like I can't. And they're all like congratulating me. And I'm just sitting there. They leave, and I remember I'm sitting in that chair, and I turn, and I lean my head back against the wall, and I just start bawling. Like that was the most emotional thing that had ever happened to me in the Navy, because and it wasn't because I wanted. I mean, I wanted it, fine. But that wasn't my goal. But I just didn't know. I didn't know where my life was going until that moment, and it hit, and I was done. I couldn't even people. I mean, my phone's blowing up. Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? And I'm like, can't even answer it. And finally, one of my other friends, who's a senior chief, and the only reason she knew I made it is because she's at the command as well, and she's like, hey, I haven't heard anything. Do you hear anything? And I was like, I got it. That's all I said. I got it. And so then she's checking on me. She's the only person who knows at this point. And she's like, I said, I don't know what to do. I can't. And she's the one who goes, hey, you need to thank somebody. You pick up the phone and thank somebody. Okay. And it got me rolling to the point where I wasn't good for 3 weeks, dude. Every time someone would come to me and be like, oh man, can't believe you made Master Chief. And I'd start crying. Oh, you were the best. I'm crying. Like anytime you compliment me, I'm crying. Like I couldn't handle it. Most humbling thing to ever happen to me.
Even more than when your name was called out for chief?
So
what year did you make chief?
11.
2011. So you were a senior chief for 10 years?
Oh, no, let's see.
2001?
I was a chief for 10 years.
Or excuse me. Well, chief for 10 years, but how long were you a senior chief?
Two looks at Master Chief. I don't even know.
So
I couldn't
3,
tell you
4, 5
I couldn't tell you
years.
what year I made.
Yeah.
That wasn't senior chief. Was just it happened. I was like, oh, cool, this is great. Even when I made chief, it was a shock because this was when. So I'm a CTM. I don't think I mentioned that yet. My rating was disestablished from 2004 to 2008, completely disestablished. And so we went from over 3,600 CTMs in the Navy to under 600. But I was an E5 at higher tenure with zero chance of advancement. So that's where I was sitting. I was on the USS Anzio. I'd been in the Navy 11 years. They had just released that message that said, hey, if you've been in the Navy, 10 years as of this date, you can retire as an E5.
Yeah, I remember that.
I've been in the Navy 9 years and 9 months as of that date.
Damn.
So I couldn't promote. I was a year from higher tenure, couldn't cross rate, couldn't advance. There was 0% advancement. Like I got my profile sheet back that year, and final multiple to advance was 999.99. I missed it by 600 points. So, but they didn't make any.
Yeah.
So I got capped that year to first class. That's the only way. And when that happened, which was another one of those moments, and because I was on that cusp where I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. It's not about advancing for me. It's about just doing these jobs and having that freedom of choice. Get capped to first class, and then did my 2 or 3 more years on the Anzio. Then I went recruiting. So in recruiting, like they're still not making CTM chiefs. I'm just a first class, and I know, hey, I can retire as a first class. So, and I wasn't going to cross rate because everybody else had turned into ETs or CTRs or something. They all cross rated and jump ship. And I was like, you know what? I will stay a CTM until they, until they make me be something else. And that's what I'm going to do. And so the year I made chief, this is a funny story too. So I was at home on leave with my little brothers. We were I'm from Dodge City, Kansas, middle of nowhere, Kansas. We were at a barbecue competition. We made ribs and stuff. Got second place.
Nice.
Good stuff, yeah. And I was in this RV that I was on leave, and I'd had the RV in my dad's shop, torn apart. I was doing the brakes, changing the oil, just ignoring my recruiter cell phone. Have you ever been a recruiter, Josh?
Never.
Worst. Don't do it. It's not
No,
worth it. Yeah.
I'm looking at retirement after this.
Yeah, it's too much work, right?
Yeah.
And I'm laying there doing something. I kind of hear buzz, 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 buzz. I'm like, what the heck? And I get up, and I have like 37 missed phone calls. I'm like, what the heck? And one of them is my zone supervisor, who's a chief, and pick up the phone, and he goes, what the fuck did you do, Henry? I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, I got a call from the CMC, and it's something about your govy, and you were speeding. And one of the big things in recruiting for misuse of a government vehicle, you're going to mass. You're going to see the old man. I was like, that didn't happen. But in my head, I'm like, man, I was doing like 110 miles an hour yesterday.
Probably sometime or another, right?
Oh, I might have got called in. He's like, you call the CMC right now. So I pick up the phone, call the CMC, and he's like, Henry, you're speeding in the government vehicles. We got your report of your license plate. And I was like, CMC, that didn't. No, it's not true. It's not. He goes, hang on. He goes, got you on speakerphone with the CO, Henry. Don't you fucking embarrass me. I'm like, sir? And he goes, Pastor Henry. He goes, I cannot believe that I'm just messing with you, made chief. I'm sitting there. And they're like, the CMC's like, I got you. You didn't know? You didn't know? I was like, they haven't made a CTM chief in like 4 years, dude. Like, why would I be on this list? I was retiring as a first class. So that was that shock, right? It's funny as hell because I didn't know. And then, they said, hey, we're going to cancel your leave. And I said, because I said, hey, I'm in Southwest Kansas. I'm 12 hours away from you guys. And they're like, okay, well, I'll see you in Jefferson, Missouri tomorrow at 6 a.m. Bye, Chief Slick. Hang up the phone. So that was a chaos, dude. But so I made chief that way. When I made senior chief, this is another odd story. So I was, me and my wife, we'd signed our daughter, we'd given her the GI Bill. And so, I hadn't given it. My wife had given it to her. We were both active duty. And my daughter was 18. She graduated. She was getting ready to graduate high school. And she wanted to go to Kansas State University. We're like, all right, well, it's paid for. She's on the GI Bill. So we had enrolled her. We paid, probably like $10,000, got her in the dorms and all this stuff. I get a call from my wife, and she's like, hey, we got to talk. I was like, what's up? She's like, Devin doesn't have the GI Bill. I was like, what do you mean? I'll tell you about it when I get home. So I show up, and she's sitting out in front of the house, glass of wine, looking miserable. What happened? She goes, well, I went in to log into Mill Connect to look at that, and it said denied. I was like, but it was approved, a year ago. She's like, I called him. What happened? Well, the requirement is, when I had passed the GI Bill, I had reenlisted to higher tenure, which is the requirement, and it goes into approved status. But I made chief, and my higher tenure had shifted. So the next requirement is a 4-year tour.
Yeah.
I was like, well, we've been in 4 years. She goes, yeah, but we did 2-year tours, not 1 4-year tour. And so they like, yeah, it's not approved. She's like, what are we going to do? We can't pay for this school. We can't. I was like, we're going to re-enlist. She's like, what? I was like, she goes, I'm getting out. I'm like, well, if you're getting out, you better be ready to have food on the table, dishes clean, because we're both chiefs. She's like, I'm not doing that. I was like, well, if I'm staying in, you're staying in. All right. So we decided to stay in. I re-enlisted for 4 years at 19 months, 355 days. That was what I had at that moment when I re-enlisted for 4 years. I was going to retire. So as soon as I re-enlisted and I realized like I could do this 4 more years, let me shift gears. And I'm not going to say look at making senior chief, because I've never looked at making rank, but let me do more, instead of trying to pull out and do less, let me do more, take some additional responsibility and, put that effort back towards the Navy. And a year and a half later, I make senior chief. And that was just, it was a shock, because we're such a small rating, you don't expect to advance, but it's cool. All right. I made senior. Master chief was that was the one that was like, just humbled me to the core, because I don't think I did anything special that nobody else was doing to get there. Still don't think I deserve it.
Still don't think you deserve it?
Yeah.
What? I mean, I find it always interesting, right? I think a lot of time, whether you're a junior sailor or a fellow chief, right? We don't hear enough stories about how people made it that are genuine like that, right? And yeah, you make that face, right? I think a lot of times, I think we believe that the chiefs that are out there, the senior chiefs, the master chiefs, that it was just like preordained. They're the sailor of the year. They were this. They have that fucking enlisted leadership award as a chief or senior chief, right? That they're just this epitome of deck plate leadership.
Yeah.
Right. And that there's a rubber stamp to everything that you're supposed to do and how to do it. And that's how it happens.
Punching the ticket.
Right.
Punch the ticket.
Right. And in the actuality of it is there's a lot out there like that. Right. I tell people, yes, I've been sailor of the year. Yes, that's why I was selected to chief. But that doesn't like define my career. Right. Whereas some might let it define their career and those awards and things like that. But it's like, your story is like I always look at those things. That's a real life story. You're always what it sounds like, right? You're always on the cusp of getting out, being forced out, and none of them of being of your choice.
Right.
Just the way the Navy dealt the cards out, you were like, well, I guess that's where I'm at.
Yep, got to do that. I'm getting out. Let me think about that thing now. Or we're like, I never looked at. And in the 26 years, I've never looked at 20. I've never looked at 26. I've never looked at 30, right? Until I'm to that edge where I have to look at it. And like I said, that's where I was 6 months from retiring. So let me do some of these medical appointments. Let me contact the VA. Let me get just enough. But I can't commit one way or the other because it's not that I want to stay in or want to get out. I just want to have the choice, right? And when you don't have the choice, then I think a lot of us just naturally fight that too. You're like, well, I'm gonna do what I want, but I'm non-traditional. When you said those guys who were sailors of the year, I was never sailor of the year. I've mentioned to you something before we started here. In May of 1997, I got awarded reduction in rate to E3, and I spent 30 days in CCU in the Brig on Ford Island, Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I never known that about you, and I would never have thought it about you, right? Because it's one thing we always tell people, sailors, right? It's like every time you go to a new duty station, you get to reinvent yourself, okay? And none of that other stuff matters. It just matters what you do here today. So, like, if you want to share what happened to that, no? Okay.
I'll share it.
Okay, yeah.
It's not as messed up as you think it is.
Or I don't think it's messed up. I'm just interested in hearing a story. You know what I mean? Like,
I actually, and here's the sensitive subject. What happened to me was because of racism.
Really?
Oh yeah. So I had a black female LPO, and I was a third class, and this gal just did not like white people. Like if you were a black kid or a girl, guy, whatever, walking in the shop, she's like, hey, I'm your best friend. I walk in, my country ass walks in, who's just, I think I'm likable. Like I don't know, like, but she was after me, like from the get go, she was on me. I had over half a year, I'd accumulated a handful of written counselings, but they were all bullshit. It was like if she had a chance to get me, she would. Failed one room inspection, written counseling. I remember I was trying to go, I promised my mom I was going to go to church on Sunday, and I talked to her, and I was like, hey, CTM1, can I go to church on Sunday? Oh, yeah. And I get a call Sunday morning because we had duty. So, like, I was not duty. We were on shift work. I was supposed to be at work, but she'd already given me permission to go to church, and she's like, where are you at? And I was like, I'm getting ready to walk out my door. This is pre-cell phones, too. This is, we're talking back in the day.
Yeah.
Going to church. She's like, where's your request shit? I was like, you told me. She goes, you can't prove that. Get in here. Showed up, written counseling shit, right? So that year I'd also failed the PT test because I'm a fat kid. Yeah. And hey, you got to do it. So I was on FEP, and the FEP out during this time was 5 days a week. You had to go to FEP 5 days a week. So one of the logs didn't have my name in it, and I claim I was there. And all my buddies were like, hey, he was there, but she's like, no. She's like, you weren't there, written counseling. So I have a written counseling. I was there, but I hadn't been. So here was the one that got me. So I was on a mid-watch. She was there. The other first class was there, and they ended up leaving, and I got sick. like sick as a dog on this mid-watch, but I couldn't leave the building. And we're in a skiff, we're doing all that type of stuff. And, I was the one maintenance guy in there at the time. So the whole night I'm sick. I'm puking in a trash can. I'm in the toilet. Everything's happening. The turnover watch shows up in the morning. They find me like dying in there, literally take me to medical. I spend the entire day in medical. And they put me in SIQ for 3 days because I was just sick. I show back up and I have a written counseling for Thursday. I was like, I was in medical all day. It's like, well, your SIQ shit says Friday. Right? So, and it was like, what the hell? So when that one went down, that one didn't, and she had a buddy in her pocket who was another female black chief who, as soon as I didn't get a written counseling shit that time, I got a report shit. And this is pre DRB. This is before the Sailor's Creed existed.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I tell people that. Like, I joined the Navy when there wasn't a Sailor's Creed. And I show up, and they're like, hey, we're going to XOI. Like, I show up to work, and they drag me in front of the XO. And I'm like, it's me and, these two gals who obviously have something out for me, which I don't understand why, because I'm not, I come to work, I work my ass off, I fix everything. Like, I'm just the kid who's out there just trying to do the best he can. Show up at XOI. They shit all over me. And the XO is like, what do you have to say for yourself? I said, it's not true, sir. This and this and this. And he's like, well, get your uniform fixed for mass tomorrow, petty officer. And that's how I left XOI. So literally I go home, get my whites. And this is the rest of the people in the shop are starting to realize, hey, something's happening here. The other chiefs, the other first classes and stuff. And so they're coming to talk to me like, hey, Henry, what's going on? What's going on? I was like, well, I'm going to Captain's Mast tomorrow. And they're like, oh, don't worry, we got you. We got your back. So we show up at Captain's Mast. I walk in, do the whole thing, and the captain, if anybody's been to a captain's mast, that you line everybody up from lowest to highest rank, and you just talk on behalf of the person who's there. I mean, glowing reviews, oh, he's the best. Oh, he shows up on time. He fixes everything. He's our motivated. And it gets to Rashonda, and she's like, well, he shows up late and he has some problems. It gets to, I said it again, didn't I?
It's fine. Go ahead.
We got to go to CT1. And, I doubt she'll ever hear this. If she does, I'm still not a fan. It gets to her. She doesn't say anything horrible, but she doesn't like pound on me as bad. All glowing reviews, and then it gets to the XO, and the XO goes, sir, I don't know what the hell these people are talking about. They didn't have one good thing to say about this kid yesterday. CO goes, good enough for me. Reduction in rate to E3, 30 days CCU in the brig. And I was standing there like, what the hell just happened? I'm looking around, and all the guys are like, they're all shocked. And I don't know. And then, I had dungarees with the X on the arm. Went to 30 days CCU, which is no joke. You ever heard of CCU?
No. What is that?
Correctional Custody Unit. So what they do is it's supposed to mirror boot camp, but be tougher. Way worse. You go in, you go to the brig. It's an open berthing, and everything is structured. I don't even know how to describe it, man. Like, you walk in, and there's lines painted on the floor. You can only walk on the lines. Every place you walk while you're in CCU, you have to march. If you stand, if you're addressing and talking to somebody, you have to be at attention. When you're not at attention, you're at parade rest. Reveille was at 4:30 in the morning. You had 10 seconds to get out of your rack, and then you had 1 minute to make your rack. And then it got inspected. And then your first uniform inspection was 10 minutes after that. And everything you did, like if you wanted to walk, like if you were sitting at your rack or sitting somewhere and you wanted to go to the restroom, you would stand up, go to attention, and you'd say, request permission to go to the restroom, petty officer, or whoever's in there. And they'd say, permission granted. You say, aye, petty officer. And you'd march, and you start to walk. Go to the first line. You stop. You go to attention. Request permission to carry on, petty officer. Carry on, aye. Aye, petty officer. Go to the next spot. Request permission to fall into the scuttlebutt. Get a drink of water, petty officer. Fall in the scuttlebutt, get a drink of water. Aye, petty officer. Right? 30 days of that.
Fuck.
Oh, it was miserable.
Came out squared away, huh?
No, came out hating the day.
So that happens. Your first duty station, you experience bad leadership. You experience this racism, what you feel is racism, right? From it's not reverse, it's just it's racism, right? And you go to the brig for 30 days. You go through that hell. I could not be that petty officers in there because I'd be like, shut the fuck up and get your water. Right? Excuse me. And you're still here 26, 27 years later. Why? What happened after that?
So
that you're like, ooh, I want to stay in.
I I had a 6-year contract. I'm a CTM, an advanced electronics field, right? 6-year contract. That happened right, let's say around year 2. After that, and so it actually gets a little more fucked up because I came out of the Brig motivated. I was like, you know what? Because one of the things the CO had said is like, hey, if you change your ways, I'll give you your rank back. I was like, cool, let's do that. And so
and I'm sure to you, you're like, change my ways. What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, and I knew I wasn't a fuck up, but I also knew like, hey, let's play the game. Because the one thing I was, and what I realized in that moment is I gave the power of my power for my career to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like that's what I did. Somebody else had power over me because I wasn't doing, my due diligence. I wasn't handling the stuff I should have done. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to get my rank back. I'm going to double down on this, and then it'll be a little blip, but it'll be easy selling on the way out. I got involved with the Sea Cadets out there. Volunteered my time, started taking college classes. Actually got nominated for like junior sailor of the quarter, for the department. But I just went to mass, so they didn't select me. But I was the not the departments, but the division's nomination for sailor of the quarter. That was on there. I mean,
was that first class still there?
Yeah, but they realized,
moved you?
Yeah, they realized
Okay.
how bad it was, and they put her somewhere else and put me somewhere else because they were like, yeah, she has a vendetta against this guy. And I did all that stuff. And during that time frame, they had to do exams that came out, and they're like, hey, you're gonna go take the exam. I was like, all right, this is how fucked up it is. They only made one CTM 3 exam that year because CTM 3s didn't exist. So they had to write one exam for me. So I took one of one. I don't even know what I got on it. I passed. But in that middle, they had, I got nominated for the quarter, did all that good stuff. My chain of command went to the CEO and said, hey, Seaman Henry has changed his ways. He's doing great stuff. He's amazing. They give him all the stuff. And he said, nope, that doesn't show significant progress. And then later that year, whenever the results came out, I was a CTM 3 again, 100% advancement. Then.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, done. Like at that moment, I was done. So I would only do my job. I'm not going to do this all. I'm not going to play the game. And I'm going to play your Navy bullshit games. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do my job. And I'm going to be the best tech. I'm going to be your best. But that's it. Ask me to train somebody. Well, I might train somebody. I like people. But ask me to do a collateral. Fuck you. So I'm not getting paid to do that. Doesn't matter what it is. Any of this stuff on the outside, I'm not doing that. And I PCS'd. I left there and I PCS'd to Sugar Grove, West Virginia. Same thing. I was the best technician they had, but I didn't play their games. Show up, fix the shit, leave. Show up, fix the shit, leave. Still had a lot of friends. I've like some of my best friends to this day were there. But I'll tell you, people that I work for who were first classes, who retired as first classes that were there after I made chief were calling me, right? Which was the weirdest thing because who would have thought I was ever going to make chief? But I did that for 2 or 3 years. And then when it came time to re-enlist, I'd already had the back in the day, there was an early out clause. If you were enrolled in college, you could get out 6 months early and go to college. And I was accepted to college. Everything was good. And the career counselor called me into his office one day. I was like, hey, what can we do to get you re-enlist? I said, that didn't happen. His name was Randy. I was like, Randy, it is not happening. I said, I'm cool. I'm just going to get out and go home. He got my 6 years done. I'm over it. He's like, well, he goes, spitball it. What would be the one thing that you could do that we could do to get you staying? I was like, well, I love being stationed here in West Virginia. I was like, I'll re-enlist for 3 years if you let me stay in West Virginia for 3 years. Picks up the phone, calls the detailer. Detailer's like, well, if he's going to do some shit that he wants to do, he's going to do some shit for me. So I'll give him 3 years if he gives us 6. And I was like, nope, no deal. And our Randy goes, oh, well, you have this little thing called an SRB.
Oh, there you
slides
go.
the paperwork over to me. He's like, if you re-enlisted for 6 years, you'd get $39,000 right now. Here I am, an E4, haven't taken an advancement exam in 3 years. I won't even touch them. I was like, $39,000 looks pretty good. All right, let's do it. And that's why I re-enlisted. And I wouldn't say I shifted anything. I still had the same work ethic. But I'm back kind of into being in the Navy. Not as much as like I'm getting out, but that's how I stayed in. They offered me money. They'd let me stay in West Virginia. I did almost 6 years in West Virginia. Best duty station I've ever been at. And yeah, I would say the rest is history, but it was every time it came up to advance or get out, I was on the cusp at every time. I was on the cusp at 6 years. I was on the cusp at 12 years. I was on the cusp at 16 years. I was on the cusp at 19 years, 355 days. I was on the cusp at 26 years. Like every time, I never looked at the future. I would just go until it was time to hit that transition point and then try to figure it out from there.
Do you ever feel that was a hindrance, or that things could be different? You know, I mean, I'm a believer. You know, I believe in the big man up top. So, you know, I just believe things happen the way they're supposed to happen. I don't know how your feelings on that, but like, I always tell people, like, plan two duty stations, plan like 5 years, you know, 3 and 3, 6 years or whatever. Like, plan this sea tour and your next short tour, right? If you're going to re-enlist, cover down. So, like, hearing how you did it, to me is like, oh my God, I'd be shitting myself all the time. So is it, I mean, obviously you're happy with it. It sounds like, you know, you're excited to share your story and everything, but I'm sure you don't tell, you know, your sailors or anyone else do it like that.
No, I always say, hey, do the tour, wait until it comes time to make that decision, and then make the decision. Don't look at 20 years. Don't look at, you know, because if you're sitting here, and especially I was a recruiter, like I said, for 3 years, and everybody's like, hey, you know, I want to have what you have. I want to have what you have. And I was like, I'd say, shut up. Don't even pretend. I said, because you're going to come in, I go, within the first year or less, you're going to find some shit you hate. I said, you just hate it. I go, and then all you can think about is I have to deal with this for 20 years. I said, you're done. I said, you won't want to do it. I said, because I'll tell you this much. I said, there's more shit I hate than I love. I can tell you that right now. I said, so you go in, you sign up for 4 years. You do your 4 years. As you're reaching the end of that time, then, as I said, there's these points in life where it's that life choice. You have to make a life decision, getting married, getting divorced, joining the service, getting a college degree, like big decisions. I said, they don't come up all the time. I said, they come up every 3 or 4 years. You'll have a big choice. Wait until it comes up, and then I go evaluate the entire thing. Like, hey, if I stay in, here's the good. If I get out, here's the bad. I go, some people are just going to be done with it and they're going to get out, which is what most people do. But maybe you decide to stay in 4 more years, 6 more years. I said, then just do your job. I said, when it comes time for that life choice again, reevaluate it, do it again. But don't look at 20. Like, nobody can do anything for 20 years if you're thinking, I'm doing this for 20 fucking years.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because I think, I mean, since I've came in, I always knew 20.
That's it. You were going to do 20.
I was going to do 20. It was just like, to me, it made the most sense. And other parts, the petty parts of me, like with family history and stuff, was like, I have all this family that served, and like no one ever retired. And I was like, I'm
going to be the one.
Yeah, I'm going to be the one. And I like, could you guys not hack it? You know, different reasons. Like, you know, I got uncles that served during Vietnam. You know, one that was all hoo-yah, you know, Marine. The other one was like, fuck this, I got drafted. You know, my dad got kicked out of the Air Force. You know, like, you know, so it's just, you know, his stepdad is a retired Air Force. So I just kind of looked at him in different judging ways, but just like y'all couldn't do 20 years of a paycheck on the 1st and 15th.
I think, well, you also had a little something to prove.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. And I tell sailors when I tell them this all the time, like I'm petty as fuck, and I'm always gonna take that and use it to motivate me.
Do you think your mentality is more common, or my mentality is more common? People that made it to our level.
I don't know. I think it's probably even split. I think probably you're trending towards your way. I mean, I think a lot of people stumble into it.
How many kids have you talked to in their first tour, and they're like, I'm doing 20? And then how many of those kids stayed in the Navy?
Yeah, not many.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's uncommon.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, you know, I talk to a lot of kids right now on the ship, and you know, they're working through the pre-con process. We're on board now, right? The ship's been live for a year.
Work.
We're getting onto it, and a lot of them right now are like, I'm getting out. I don't, you know, fuck this, you know. And I was like, y'all haven't even made a deployment. You don't even know what the Navy is yet.
You haven't had shore duty yet. Like,
well, I mean, like, they spent 2 years on shore duty.
Well, but like the amount of work you guys do to.
Well, so because we have 2 crews, so one crew has done all the work for the last like 18 months. This crew really hasn't. They've been in the building doing administrative, getting ready, and you know they've been on a board sometimes and helping out.
Boredom is as bad as being too busy. So
absolutely. And I just kind of look it back and tell them like, look, like, cool. If you made your decision, you made your decision, but just know like where we're at. Oh, this is a special program, right? LCS.
You volunteered.
It's not special programs, but it's special. Like, you know,
duty,
yeah. Well, no, just special.
Okay.
You know.
I'm tracking,
yeah, and it's like, I mean, there's sonar techs that run our admin office. We have no YNs, no PSs. It's all sonar techs. They're doing nothing sonar related. I feel for them. You know what I mean? Like they join thinking they're going to do sonar stuff, and they're not. You know what I mean? They're totally out of rate. So I feel for that. So I could understand why some of them are like, nah, this is chalked. I don't want to be here. You know, other ones, you know, that are like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out. What's this like? Like, you know, on that fence of just like, what do I do? I said, hey, like, you don't have to make a decision today. More like your route, right? Of like, hey, just like fill this out, right? You got 2 more years, 3 more years, whatever it is, right? Fill this out. Don't judge it all by this, right? But also, I mean, even if this is all you're going to have to judge it by, just think like, okay, people are like, well, I was underway. I brought it from Mobile back to California. That's not underway.
Yeah, you just took a trip, dude.
Yeah. Okay. Like you haven't been on deployment. You haven't experienced nothing. And even though these ships, they go and you're familiar, kind of, you've heard
I know.
LCS, you know, deployments and stuff. Like, I'm not saying stay in 10 years and to get to another ship and experience a deployment. I'm just saying there's a lot more to this.
Well, I was talking, this is when even as a recruiter, and I was telling, you know, these kids what to expect. I was like, the worst part of your job isn't deployment. That's the best part.
Yeah.
I was like,
it's the easiest.
Work ups are the worst. I said, every time you have a new certifying event, every time you have a new inspection, I said, you're going balls to the wall. I said, you're going to be at it. I said, when you deploy, you do your job. I said, you do your job. And I said, and it is great. I go, and you get into routines and you just get to do your stuff. And I said, that's fun. I said, everything else sucks. And because that's what they're worried about. Like in their young heads, I don't want to deploy. I don't want to be on this ship for 6 months. I was like, that's the best.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of people, I know I got some civilian listeners out there, and if I haven't talked to you, the friends that are my close friends, like deployment sucks because you're away from your family, right? But deployment is where watchstanders do their job, where I do my logistics part. I'm always doing logistics, but it's a lot simpler and easier underway on deployment.
Very streamlined.
Yes. All of it's all, I mean, you're contained. You're in 550 feet. There's nowhere to go. It's all right there for you. And you know that you have these watches, and you know your gym time is this, and you know laundry day is that. And there's just nothing outside those lifelines, right? Like we say.
Until you pull in to a cool place and you get to experience that, which is fun.
Yeah.
And so there's work that's comfortable and easy, and it's I call it a time machine, right? You go on a long deployment, it's a time machine.
Yeah.
Like you're just there, you get in the same routine every day, and it's very comfortable to be there. And then every couple of weeks or every month, you get to pull into a new place and see some neat shit, and then you go back to work again.
How many ships you been on?
So I did 5 years on the USS Anzio. Was my only PCS ship, but I was stationed at ComNav Surfpack. I was the force cryptologist back in 12 to 15, and I went underway 88 times in 3 years. But I was inspections. I was like, I do pre-in-serve inspections and stuff like that. I would do anywhere from 2 to 5 days underway, which that was fun.
That's hard too, though.
Oh yeah,
that's. I tell people it's harder to get underway when you're in port, and like you said, the workups, the basic phase, all that. It's harder to do the 3 months of in and out Monday to Friday, home for the weekend, got duty one of those weekend days. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's so much harder. Put me on deployment.
Let me go. Let me work towards something.
Honey, I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss the kids. I'd rather do a deployment than do all this bullshit in and out. For fucking 3-6 months in workup phase.
Imagine those guys who come out of they're on the ship for 3 years, and that ship's in the yards for a year and a half, and all they do is the yards, the workup, and they leave for deployment. Like, those are the guys who are getting out of the Navy.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. I used to ask people this, I forget how I'd phrase it, but would you rather do like a year-long deployment and then like guaranteed 2 years in port? Right, doing whatever, or like the stupid ass routine that we have, right? And like it's interesting when you hear the differences of answers between people, because it kind of
the people who haven't done it and the people that have, and you're like, oh yeah, give me the deployment all day. Like,
yeah, and one of us like you do the deployment, then you come back, since you've done a year, you're off ship, and then a different crew takes the ship and does the maintenance. Right? It's like, yeah, I'll take a year. Is it gonna suck? Fuck yeah, it's gonna suck. But it only sucks because I'm away from my family.
Let's talk about the suck, right?
Yeah.
Like this is my favorite part of being in the service, and trying to explain to somebody, like, the suck is where you make the camaraderie. The suck is where you make those family friends. Like, when you make those lifelong, like, being in the suck is the best. Like, you hate it at the moment. It's sucking for everybody, but it's sucking for everybody. It just builds that cohesion. those are, I don't know about like your Navy friends, like your closest ones are the ones you're in the suck with.
Yeah.
And it's, I've deployed kids into the sandbox and all those guys. The guys, we talk about our SEALs, we talk about our spec war guys. Like the ones who work in those groups, you crave it, right?
Yeah.
It's horrible. That stuff's horrible, but it just made us so much better. Like, I don't know.
You know what's interesting over time though, the like my first ship, technically my first warship, because I did a USNS for a year. 2-man stateroom, third class,
real food.
Oh my God, bro, it was the best, right? Anyways, so I got to a destroyer, USS Russell, and 2008, met him on deployment. I was a second class, right? Found out en route that I put on second, and like those guys I served with, very few of them I keep in touch with, but like while we were there, like we were inseparable.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like, it sucked. I'm talking about, like, hey, first main space fire drill starts at 5:30, and we're running 2 today.
Yeah, don't plan on sleeping.
Yeah.
Plus, you got watch. Plus, you got,
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, so during that time, but it's like, we kind of fallen off, and everyone's gone and done things.
That's any friend. Right?
Yeah.
And that happens, but like the bond's still there. You reach out to any one of those dudes, right? They're going to be like, hey, what are you up to? Hey, let's, hey, man, I need some help, right? Those guys are always going to be there. It's the same thing with, I talked about my ship, those guys. We're not close. We talk, we're constantly talking still, but the bond is always going to be there.
Where's your bond? What was like, well, you made chief on recruiting, right? What was like your first mess like?
Oh,
because like, me, when I got to where we served together, that was my first mess, right? I got there and I was a new chief.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, you held yourself well.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. I do my thing. But me and Chad, Nick, a lot of us that were there, like we became very tight.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was an awesome mess. It was an awesome mess to learn from. Right, with a lot of you old, So yes, with all the master chiefs, you senior chiefs, they're like, I could sit back that first year, and hopefully not come off stupid, but watch and observe a bit and see how the movement is and everything like that. So what was that like? Your first mess like and like what it was the cohesion and that camaraderie for you. All right, intermission there. Had to do a head call. All right, so I was asking what your first mess was like, what that cohesion is like, you keep in touch with a lot of those people and everything like that. Please share.
So uniquely, because I made chief in recruiting duty, I was the only chief select in Kansas. All right. So I was in recruiting district St. Louis, which was a huge area, middle of nowhere. And I owned the as far west of the zone as you could own. I was 8.5 hours away from headquarters. Mm-hmm. And then I made chief. There was 5 of us initially, and then we ended up with 7 because 2 guys transferred in. When I made chief, I was the only fleet sailor.
Pull that just a little bit closer again.
There you go.
Yeah, right. No, don't move your head. Just pull the mic closer.
How about now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
So I was the only fleet sailor.
Yeah.
It was 3 NCs, Navy Career Recruiters, 1 FTSYN, and then me. And so what I got was all of the fleet gunners mates, boatswain's mates, SKs, SHs, like all those guys who were from the fleet that were chiefs they were coming after me because they don't. In recruiting, NCs are a different breed. They're rated different. There's a lot of NC chiefs who are very detached from the Navy. There's some really good ones, and some of my best friends still are who I talk to this day. But there's the other half who are just detached from the Navy. They're not really sailors anymore. They're just, I don't want to call them salesmen, but it's a whole.
They are.
Yeah, they're.
Yeah.
It's a different thing.
Yep.
So going through season, I had all the special attention, and then being the only one from Kansas. There was an AO with GM, 2 GMs, SK. They were the only ones in Kansas. They weren't around me. I had to drive 2, 3, 4 hours to go find these guys, to get my mentoring and get my training. But that group, like the non-recruiting chiefs of that first mess, like made my season because I was the only one who had shipboard experience. I was the only one who. It was funny as hell. So, like the first couple days of NDOC, they're coming down and the CO or the XO comes in and they're talking us up and they say, hey, you guys are here for a reason. You're all chief selects for a reason. And they point over like, you NC1, you were our sailor of the year. You were the reserve recruiter of the year. You did it. And they speaking these accolades and they go, Henry, you're a damn good sailor. And they keep talking. Like I wasn't one of those guys. I wasn't part of their group. I didn't make chief for what I was accomplishing on recruiting. I made chief from what I did from the ship. And then I had just marginal evals in recruiting. So I wasn't, the mess was good. The half of the mess that was fleet was good. And I talked to a handful of them still to this day. The funnier thing was my chief selectee mess. Hated him. I mean, I was, because I was the one who had to handle the business. I had to do all the stuff. That year, we made a chief who 6 months prior was a, what did we have back then? PS, not PS. Yeah. DK, whatever she was.
Yeah.
DK2. All right. She was a DK2. She got awarded, and she was a reservist. She got awarded Reserve Recruiter of the Year, and they capped her, pre-map, capped her to first class at the annual awards banquet. Well, no, so actually, we back that up. So at their awards banquet, they made her a first class. They promoted to NC1. She got awarded 3 months later, the Navy Reserve Recruiter of the Year for the big Navy.
Yeah.
So the CNO did a time and weight waiver on her and made her a chief. So she was a second class, and 6 months later, she was a chief.
That's crazy.
And you want to know why you don't put second classes through chief season? Like, it is, well, I found out later she was banging one of the master chiefs, too. So, yeah, you get that goodness. But the worst. I mean, the worst. Like, if you, to this day, did I show you my vessel during season?
I don't think so.
So I have it came down to this when all of us were making our vessels and stuff. Like, hey, Henry, you're the only one who does this stuff. You make them. And I'm 8 hours away from all of them. Like, I put over 16,000 miles in my government vehicle while I was during season. I slept in it. It was like a hobo. Like, that's the way I made it through season. Like, will you make our boxes? I can't. I said, I don't have the time. I said, I'm on the road all the time, guys. I said, fucking order them. We're ordering them. Like, oh, we're going to yell at. I was like, I don't care. Order them. Just get something engraved on me. Order the boxes. Okay. Mine shows up and is wrong. CTMC, Select, James, Henry. You ever heard me go by James? AW pin right across the top. Big AW. I don't have I had a SW pin at that time. That's all I had. I'm looking at it. I said, what the fuck is this? And that former second class was like, what do you mean? Pin's a pin. And I was like, I almost lost my. She was the one who ordered them. And so to this day, I kept it. That's my vessel. And you know how hard it is to hide a pin on a box, right? When you're walking around, like I didn't get beat for that once. I probably should have, but I keep it just to remind like that. And my lesson in that was like, hey, handle your own business, handle your shit. Because if you let somebody else handle your shit, they're gonna fuck you.
Yep.
And yeah, she fucked me.
Yep.
But I don't talk to those guys. Because they were all in, like, NCs are very into it for themselves. We're so used to, like, selfless, humble leaders. Like, they're not that. They are the opposite of that. But that's what makes them successful, too. So I'm not.
Well, I mean, they're trying to get their person, right? Mm-hmm. It's a numbers game, and they're out for their person, and whatever they got to do to get their person and their numbers, and that's it, right? Like, fuck you. I'm not giving you one. You need one? Nope. Because that's in my pocket for next month.
Yep, it's all for me. It's all for me.
So, and I mean, I get it. I understand, but fuck, like you said, they are salespersons.
When we promote to chiefs, I say this: we promote people, and if you're a first class or you're a second class, and you're looking, hey, I want to make chief someday, the people who sacrifice their time, right? Personal time, their time with their family, right? They almost become a little selfless. You put more time towards mission. You put more time towards sailors. You put more time towards getting stuff done than you do your personal life, right? You sacrifice. That's that sacrifice piece, and that's how you get promoted, right? You have to. And I hate to say that because like we always preach balance. Mm-hmm. You're not making chief if you got balance. I'm sorry. Like you have to give more of yourself to the Navy and to the mission, to the sailors, which is stuff that I believe in, like especially sailors. And this is we don't get here without doing that. That's how you promote. That's how you make chief. That's how you make senior chief. That's how you make master chief. It's the point where you have to shift back and you say, all right, now what am I going to start doing for myself? How am I going to retire? How am I going to? But to promote, you have to become selfless. You have to say, all right, hey, I'm not doing this shit for me. Where in the NC world, it's the other way. If you're a little selfish fuck and you're screwing people and you're playing the system and you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, I will make you an NC master chief.
Real quick.
What
do you think? So, I agree. And on the podcast, if you've listened before, we've talked about balance, right? And And how do you know, I have several episodes and talk about several conversations with people on here, right, about balance. Do you think as a first class that balance needs to favor and heavily balance towards mission? So especially if you're really trying to be a chief, right? And then after you make chief, where does it go in your opinion? What do you think?
Well, and it still goes that progression. I think making chief is you sacrificing that time, right? 'Cause it is a sacrifice. I'm going to give this time that I would put to myself to the Navy. Like, you're not getting, a lot of people aren't getting a degree for themselves. Like, hey, this is going to help me in promotion, right? Maybe later. It's not, and there's a few of those people who have that calling for education, fine. But like that promotion, there's always something that slipped through the cracks, right? That always happens. But the majority of people who make chief sacrificed all that time, right? Now, senior chief, I would say the same thing. And it's because you have to, you're sitting here as a chief, now you're running a division, so you're still handling your mission, but now you have 12 hungry mouths to feed, 20 hungry mouths, and I say feed, I mean, I always call it your sailor time. 90% of your time is going to go to fucking 2 of those people because they're just going to be fuck ups, and you can't let them fail, so you got to work on them, but you're still sacrificing. You see a lot of chiefs who make it, and especially like later, say after 15, 16 years, and they just like, hey, how do I float to 20, right? And we always talk to our guys on the road. Same thing, right? You will have those road guys because they know, all right, and that's where it gets selfish, right? You shift it back over, like, all right, I'm done giving. I'm gonna dedicate this more time to my family. I'm gonna do this stuff for myself. Cool. Yeah, I don't hold anybody, in disregard for doing that. Like, you have to. Like, you got here by sacrificing. If you want more time with your family, you want to do stuff for yourself, now do it. Retire. Cool. We need that. You want to keep promoting, you got to keep pushing. You got to keep the press on. You got to keep, just doing the do. And that's kind of that shift. And it's not, I don't think you make senior chief and master chief by punching the ticket anymore, right? I think once you're a chief, you have the initiative, the drive, you're making good changes. You're just affecting everything around you, mission, sailors, all that stuff. You're doing it well, and you're going to promote, right? There's not a magic script at that point. There's a magic script to get the chief.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can look at the ladder.
It's not even that magic.
No, yeah, you can look at your ladder. You do everything on that fucking ladder, you're going to make chief.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. You can wait it out. Now, once it becomes selection board based, you have to be doing the do. Otherwise, you'll just, which is fine. You need those guys who can just run a division and keep that little piece of that mission going and retire. Great. But you want to make it, you're going to keep sacrificing. It's going to happen.
Fuck. I always fuck this up when people say a lot of good stuff. And I catch one, I'm like, yo, that's the one I want to ask a question about. That's my follow-up. And then like, oh, more shit. But you're talking about chiefs. I think of it like, excuse me. I think when you put on the anchor, right, and this is my short-term experience, is like by that time you should have it figured out where the balance can come back. Now, that balance doesn't mean you get to leave early, right? I have not made it home before. I think the first week on board, I made it home 15:30 was the earliest, I think. I've seen Nikki for 30 minutes.
You still ain't leaving first.
This week, I saw her one day for 30 minutes before she went to work, and then yesterday I got home and it was her day off, and then we spent maybe 2 hours together before we were asleep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's not that I'm not trying to balance it. It's not that we're not trying to balance it. It's just that it pulls you, right? The responsibilities are there, and you have to wrap those up, right? Before you can get here.
Well, you do, and that is one of the things we try to teach during season, where like you're riding these chief selects ass, like what's up with your family? What's up with your family? We expect you to do the mission, but if you're not taking care of your family, we're going to call you out on that too, right? And that's that whole we're trying to force you on the balance. It's not going to be a perfect balance,
yeah.
Because I said that's where it goes back to that. Hey, am I going to try to make this more of a career? Do I want to try to keep promoting, or hey, am I okay where I'm at? Can I do just enough? We don't accept that anywhere else except for somebody who made chief who's going to retire in like 3 years. Like, all right, is he going to do just enough? Hey, that's what he does. That's what he does.
That's what they do. Just put him there. Put him in the corner. All right, so I remember now. You said there's no magic sauce here to make 8, to make 9, right? It's about what you're doing and just how it impacts the mission and those around you, right? let's say you're the all-knowing Master Chief now, right? You've been the Master Chief for not even a year yet, right?
Nope, not even a year.
Not even a year. But you've been around the block. You've seen it. You're here now. Maybe in the future you sit aboard. What or how in your mind, like real life, not the board bullshit that people like to put out, in your real life experience, how have you seen the Chiefs that are promoting impacting? Like, what is it that you see from them and stuff?
Well, one,
and not even just Chiefs, but also like first class.
First class, any of them, right? All right.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. Even at the first class level, if I have to tell you what to do, and this is as a chief, as a senior chief, as a master chief, where I've been, if I have to tell you what to do, you're already fucking up, right? At the chief level, especially, like I have a problem if I'm telling a chief what to do. I have a higher expectation of you now. You're getting the paycheck. You got here. You were promoted by a board of your peers. If I have to tell you what to do, we have a problem. All right, that's the biggest one across the board. Now, look at what they're doing. Now, if I'm reading evals and a lot of people say to me, hey, read my package, cool. And I read it and it says, oh, this dude's doing his job. Cool, do your job. I expect that, right? Now, this dude's doing his job. He also created a study group for sailors, right? Because they didn't exist yet. Or he stood up a CPO 365 program where there wasn't one. Or if he saw a hole, something that was fucked up. Not even saying fucked up. There's a gap here. There's a gap here that needs filled, and it's taking care of sailors, which is the number one, which also takes care of mission, right? And they do that, right? And I by reading the eval, you can't necessarily say somebody didn't tell them to do it, but they did it, right? But that's what I expect. Not your job's your job. I already expect you, first classes, chiefs, your subject matter expert. You're doing your job. If your eval is job centric, you're wasting space, and you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Because as a chief, and my charge book entry hasn't changed since I started writing it, and it literally says, hey, if you see a problem and you don't do anything about it, then you're part of the problem. That is it in a nutshell. There's always fucked up shit, right? And so many people will look at anything, especially chiefs, right? Be like, that's not mine. That's not my P-way. They would think, you're walking down a P-way, you see a fucking fire plug missing. The nozzle's missing. Thank God that's not my space.
Yep.
Or you could have walked down to Euro 9, fucking logged it and walked away. Or said, hey, second class, go log that fucking plug. You just did something, right? You just fucking made it better. But not my problem means you're the problem. And so that can go as broad as, hey, there's shit that's fucked up in the Navy. Holy, like even just on your ship, like here's your world. There's something that's fucked up here. And you recognize it, and you're not going to do anything about it. Where the people that are going and saying, hey, there's a gap here. There's something that needs to be done. We obviously have an alcohol problem on board this ship. Everybody's getting fucked up all the time. They're obviously too stressed out. What can we do to educate them, right? Make a decision, do that. And if it says, this chief or this first class stood up this program to address this problem, because you're not just thinking about yourself. You're not just thinking about one sailor. You're looking at the entire, that's command, that's mission, that's sailors, right? If you have a bigger vision and a bigger picture, that's what's going to advance. Like if I set that board, those are the people I'm advancing. They're not just worried about hey, I did my parts report. He did 27 parts reports this month. Cool. Like he was going to do that shit anyway. Like,
yeah. What do you think? There it is again. It happened. I always be fucking that up. You're spitting facts, right? You're spitting facts. It's really good stuff. But like, where do you think you're talking about? Like the not my problem, right? In your experience, a lot more than mine, right?
Not that much.
10 years. That's a lot. That's a lot, bro. And that's like, not just 10 years Navy, but like 10 years, in 2011 when you were put on chief, I was a fucking second class. You know what I mean? So like, it is a lot, to me, and your experience in the mess, trumps mine big time, So like, what do you see or which is heavier? We're on the scale. The chiefs that are like, not my problem, or the chiefs that are like, I got something for action. Because I'll tell you what I see.
What do you see?
I see like a lot more. All
right. So what's would you say the action chiefs? And you and I talked about this. When you look at a mess, say you have 100 people in 100 chiefs in your mess. How many of those are doing something?
Well, usually they go like the 90-10.
Yeah, maybe 10, maybe 20%, right?
Yeah.
And so it's that that 10% who's like, all right, here's these issues. Hey, I'm going to be a Semio and I'm going to be a DAPA, right? Because there's problems here and I'm passionate about it. I'm going to be a SARP because I was victim of a sexual assault. So I'm going to address this, right? I'm going to teach sailors about fucking bathing. Pick your goddamn thing. But those are the chiefs, which is that 10%. Everybody's like, okay, yeah, hey, I'll support you. I'll help you out, brother. I'll help you out, sister. But they ain't going to do it. They don't have the initiative. They don't have the drive. You know what? They may advance by attrition, but they ain't advancing by their fucking actions.
Yeah.
And I told you about I had a guy who I debriefed an eval. I had him cry the other day. Same thing. Hey, you want to make senior chief? Yeah. I said, well, your next eval is going to look just like this. And I said, you ain't doing shit. And I had a master chief set me down and tell me that shit. I was like, it hit me in the goddamn soul. What do you mean I ain't doing shit? And I had to like reevaluate that and be like, yeah, I'm not doing shit. Yo.
Do you think people like that are like oblivious to them? Because I always preach. I was just telling my own sailor, right? I said, hey, and he listens, right? So he knows, right?
I love the ones that listen.
I said, do you think you're worthy of a map? Now, he's not even eligible, but I always teach my sailors, you should be game planning way far ahead, right? You're planning already for when you're a second class and how you're going to make first. Okay, so do you think you're eligible for a map? Think about it. He said, no, I don't. I said, all right, good. Now write down why. Why don't you think you're eligible, or why don't you think you are ready to be mapped and be a second class? And he just kind of looked at it and he was kind of like, okay, all right, yeah, okay, I'll do that. I said, remember, right? And again, it's one of those, like, I'm not telling my sailor, for those that might listen one day, like, oh, he's fucking, no, I'm not promising shit. I'm putting him in the headspace to be like, it's on sailor's mind all the time. It was on mine when I was a fucking young buck of like, hey, there's this map thing or cap, right? Yeah. They could just automatically advance me and I'm fucking worthy, right? I'm fucking shit hot. Look at my boots, right? But I had no idea how it played out and how it worked and how the Chiefs were taking care of it, right? So I just want him to be like, I know you're thinking of it, but are you thinking about what it takes?
I think, I think like our sailors now are way smarter than we were.
Fuck yeah, they are.
And because they're career oriented, right? They know like, hey, this is my eval. If I do these things, I'll get good marks here. Those good marks equate to a X, right? Like, remember how did you ever get put in for like? Well, you did. I used to get put in for the sailor of the quarter. Like, I don't want that shit. Fuck that. It's not worth my time. And
I wanted it.
See, well, you were smarter than me, and this is me growing up because I was like, it's just a waste of time. That guy's just all he's doing is, fucking fluffing somebody's nuts. Like, he's just playing the game, right? Now that I make chief, I look at it, I'm like, hey, I have a sailor who's the sailor of the quarter. That's the best sailor that I have for that entire quarter. If I have a sailor that's the sailor of the year of this command, that's the number one, and you have to fight those battles. But you just told me, when I was stationed in Maryland, I had, in 1 year, and we had, JSOQ, Blue Jacket of the quarter, sailor of the quarter, senior sailor. We had 4 per quarter. I had 16 OQs in 1 year, just my department. And when it came to rank them out, we have 437 first classes, 600 E5s. We have these numbers, and they're trying to like board them. Like, oh, my guy's better. I'm like, well, I have 16 SOQs.
Yeah.
So here's EPs, and they're, what do you mean? I said, well, my guys outperformed all your guys. And then,
quarter after quarter,
right here. Boom.
What are we even talking about?
Yeah. And that's the type of stuff. And I explain it to my sailors. I'm like, hey, if I say, hey, I want to put you in for sailor of the quarter, and I go, and you feel like, oh, it's a dog and pony show. I said, it's not. I said, it's because you're performing. I go, and I want to recognize you for performing. I said, so take a little humility, take a little pill. I go, and help me do this packet. And I said, now, if you want to make sailor of the quarter, I'm going to tell you what to do.
Yep.
I said, I need you to take a college class. I don't take school. I said, just take one. I said, I need you to volunteer 1 week.
Y'all should be listening up out there in La La Land, all right?
I go, because I said, the things. Take a college class, just one. Go volunteer 1 fucking weekend. I said, take a collateral duty that doesn't just fucking, isn't, it has to help a sailor. Something that's a training or something that helps a sailor directly. I said, do your fucking job, which I expect all the time, all right? I go hit all these wickets, and I go, and look, here's the grade sheet. I was like, read this grade sheet. I said, if I can put something in every one of these blocks, I said, I'm going to make you the SOQ. I said, SOY, that's a whole other story. I said,
a bit tougher.
Yeah.
But same game plan.
I was like, but I go, if you do this, you'll advance. I said, I'm not advancing you. I said, you're advancing yourself on your own merit. I said, but you come in here and you just try to do your job. Everybody comes in here and does their job.
Yeah. No, brother, I just had this conversation in recent episodes. Me, Nick McClare.
Yep.
We just had that conversation. I had the two LSs, my LS and the LS from the sister crew, and we were spitting these things to them. And it's not rocket surgery, people, right? If you're a junior sailor that happens to be listening, there's no secrets to this. And part of the podcast, right, is I'm trying to break down these things that you think are secrets, right? Search your share drive. Look for SOQ, SOY, grade sheet. Follow it. Listen to your chief, right? And my thing, too, is like sometimes I feel some chiefs, first classes, like they keep it the secret thing, right? And here's the thing that I tell sailors all the time, like they don't plan it, right? They don't plan for your sailor of the quarter. They're just like, hey, sailor of the quarter packages are doing 2 weeks. And they're like, oh, my God, who are we going to put in? What are we going to do? I don't know what to do.
I always knew who my next quarter was. When I was writing that package, I knew who my next guy was because I was always like, hey, there's a soldiers and sailors home you're going to go visit next week. There's a dinner. Do this stuff. Like, I know you're my next guy.
Yeah. So, I have an early episode called The Humble Brag. Supply took it took fourth quarter and first quarter.
I love it.
I'm done. I don't even need to do anything. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I'll pick up probably third quarter again, right? When I put in my other sailor.
Oh yeah.
But right now, like this quarter, I could like, it's not that we're throttling off. Right now we're just kind of like, hey, just keep we just got on hold and everything. So it's just kind of like, hey, we already, the name's out there. Now let's really show them, and then we'll re-engage, and then we'll get back to it, right? But it's no secret. I'm sharing it with them. I think everyone should share it with them, right? It's just, I think, again, why are we not telling them these things, right? Why are we not wanting them? I tell them all the time, you want some more money in your pocket?
Sorry, I was talking outside your microphone. It's when we start talking about like the sailor of the quarter thing, and you can get your sailors to realize like what that does for them. It changes it because not only does do those little things like make them promote, but it makes them a better person, right? Yeah. It's not about being a better fucking sailor. Like, hey, you're a better person now. You just educated yourself. You have some you have some personal development. You have professional development. You gave a little bit back to the community, which fucking feels good. You may bitch about it initially, but like, all that shit makes you a better person. Making better people makes better fucking sailors. Let you advance them, right? And it's just not only that, creating the the environment where your kids want that and they're hungry for that changes the entire dynamic of your shop. Because then not even that they're competing, because they're looking out for each other. Like, hey, I got it this quarter. You can get it next quarter. Let me help you. Let me go with you. And you're creating that teamwork. That's the environments you want to create.
Preach it, brother. Yeah, preach it.
That's it.
Preach it.
I got another one for you. I just thought about this, and I hate to I'm gonna pull the curtain a little more. This is pulling the curtain in the Chiefs mess. You know how you write a SOQ, SOY packet to win? You see the grade sheet, right? And you know what the format of the packet looks like, and you know what the grade sheet looks like. Take the grade sheet, set it down, change every category on your write-up as you're writing up to match the grade sheet in order.
Yep.
Right? A, leadership, A, did it. And match it up. And then if you have something that's both leadership and collateral, say reference, para, da-da-da, right? And go back. And so when you pick up a grade sheet, it's sitting on a board, and it mirrors the fucking packet. They mirror each other.
Really easy to grade.
Really easy to grade.
Really easy.
And you just go, tick, 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 tick.
Grade sheet, block 1, leadership with, are they LPO? Sailor serving as LPO.
Of 16, of da-da-da-da.
Didn't have to fucking search for
leadership. Yeah, C, block, da-da-da.
Yeah, well, there's a point. Oh, yeah. Done.
And that's I changed it. And everybody's like, well, that's not the format of I said, that's a fucking suggestion, man. I go, what we work in the Chiefs mess is in a gray area. So you're trying to work in the black and white, you're fucking up already.
Yeah.
I was like, mirror it. And this is like to everybody, if you're listening to this podcast, you want to make an SOI, get a hold of the grade sheet, write your package that matches it. And
again, I find it crazy how many people don't share that, protect it as, like secret tribal knowledge or something. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I tell my sailors, look, this is how it works. It's really simple and easy in the grand scheme of things.
So in that year, it's a long story. I'm going to shorten it up, but I had back-to-back set of the years, back-to-back, and both of them made chief. But after both of them picked up, and as I was leaving, and you guys on the air are not gonna be able to see this, but they took a picture for me with their awards.
They can see. You can show the camera. You can show the camera.
Can you see it? Can you see it?
Yeah, that's good. They see it. That's funny.
Yeah, they took that and they framed it and they gave it to me.
That's dope.
And I was like, it was the best thing ever. And not only that, so they gave me a Yeti koozie, like a nice hard Yeti koozie. On the back of it said, "The worst senior chief." I said, "What the fuck is this?" And they said, "You don't remember when you got in that argument with Master Chief?" I said, "What?" And they said, "Yeah, we were outside of his office and you went in there and he was bitching about the Sailor of the Year shit and you were yelling back at him and you said, 'Hey, that's unfair. You know, if you do this,' and they go, 'You literally said like, hey, if you make me do this, I'm gonna fucking sweep it.' And he goes, 'You're the fucking worst senior chief I ever met, Henry.' And I was like, or JD, and I was like, 'Fuck off, Mike.' And I walked out. And he goes, and these two, their first classes, we're outside just shaking because you're gonna just yelling at each other. And they're literally like, 'You're the worst senior chief.' And he goes, 'And then you fucking went out and got 2 fucking Sailor of the Years.' I was like, I told him I was gonna do it. And so I have a koozie that says the worst senior chief. Like,
do you think so? This is a problem I have, right? I look. If you like, I don't know how much you've served around Supply, really, right? But Supply has a reputation.
It does.
Right? And me and Nick McClare have talked about it on here, right? Me and my sailors, after quarters, we go gangbang around on the ship.
Yeah.
Right? We go walk through, not like right through the middle of their quarters, but we walk, like I just posted on Facebook today, like after quarters, we just don't walk our spaces, we walk their spaces too. Yeah, right, because it's an attitude. Now, some would say, well, Josh, you're not very humble. And in my mind, I was like, this isn't a humility test, okay? This is a confidence boosting. I want my sailors to walk around talking cash money shit and backing it up.
Right. Doing the do.
Right? You can't tell them nothing because they will answer that call every time. Right? Do you agree, disagree, or it sounds like you agree, right?
No,
but what is your take on when other chiefs are like, "Oh, you're not being very humble. You know, you shouldn't be doing that." You know, what's your take on that stuff?
I'm proud of my team. I'm proud of my sailors. I'm proud. You know, it's like, yeah, you can talk your shit like as your CTs set in the CES and you never see them, but you don't have it on the LCS. But like how many ships you go to and you never see the CTs or you never see the OSs, right? And that's the problem. Whereas like you have your supply department walk around the ship, talk to people, and they're not just walking around like with that attitude. They're walking around like, hey, what's going on the ship? They're aware of what's going on.
Yeah,
people know them, which is a big deal on any ship. If other chiefs know your sailors' names, big deal, right?
Yep.
That's just you advertising, and you're proud of them, right?
Yeah.
So that is you, and they, because you are proud of them like that, they will do more for you, right? You're creating, like, talk about the environment. That's the environment you want to create, right? And you find ways to shift that to make people be proud to be an LS in supply department. Because I don't know how many ships I've been on, and they're like, "Hey man, what do you do?" "I'm an LS." "What? Why, man? That's the most important goddamn thing here. Why are you?"
Yeah. No, well, so I got 1 LS and I got 3 CSs, right? And we all know CSs get dogged on
all the time,
right?
Hardest goddamn job.
It is. I don't care. I don't fucking care what anybody says. You're not there before the CS unless you're on duty.
Yep.
Okay, and you're not there after this unless you're engineering department, and half the time
ain't nobody working hungry,
right?
Like,
and you get a break for lunch, don't you? When do they get a break for lunch?
No, they are lunch.
What? 10 minutes, 15 minutes before they got to serve it, or after they're done serving, before they're back in the galley cleaning again. You know what I mean? Like you got to sit down for an hour or whatever, right? They didn't. They got 15 minutes. They're stuffing their face before they're off to another drill, before they're doing this or doing that. So, my CS, I'm like, hey, like, it's just, again, it's a supply attitude, and, like it or love it, haters. Okay. If it touches your heart, I'm sorry, but we are going to run shit, or at least we're going to act like we do. And this ain't fake it till you make it. It's just, we're going to act like it because eventually we're going to manifest it.
Hey, attitude's what makes sailors, right? And confidence, self-confidence.
Yes.
The thing is, any of these, and I always like to call them kids because none of these guys are kids, right? But everybody's a kid to me, right? They, like, if they are self-confident, they are going to perform. They're going to do better. They're going to volunteer for other shit. It's not just their world. They're worried about the rest of the world. I did the same thing with, when I was a first class, my guys on the Anzio, I did it in a way where if we weren't working, we'd go find somebody who was and help them, right? Because we didn't have a lot of shit. How many OSs only set in combat and you'd never see them anywhere? Like, so when I got capped on that ship, the BM senior chief was the one who got me capped because I seen how hard they were working. My guys weren't working. I was like, hey, seniors, you guys need some help? We can help you paint this. I'd pull my guys out because we weren't doing shit and we just help them out. Because I wasn't going to send my guys home early and we're going to work. We're going to make this place the best place we can. But that was my advocate, was a goddamn BM. As a CTM, a BM senior chief was the guy who got me capped.
Yo, that's been my game plan next, right? Is like I'm kind of sitting fat and happy right now, right? So I'm kind of looking like, all right,
I got a little more time. We got a little more time and energy here. We can
like who? It's kind of like who's not gonna do something for a sailor, and I'm gonna be like, hey, you need help because they've been helping me, or I've been noticing, right? You're not gonna put them in. I'll put them in for you. Right? Like, yeah, I'll just, no, you don't think so? I think so because I've seen this or what, right? And it's
about doing what's right, though.
And yes, it is. Some people will be like, well, no, that's like manipulative. And I'm like, I just look at it as like, I want, and this is part of why I've told people this before, right? Is people are like, yo, why'd you go LCS pre-com? First and foremost, to stay in San Diego. Okay. I was hit with a good luck, Chuck.
You made a choice for your family.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, when I was thinking of it, I was like, you know what? I tell people there's oftentimes very few like really kind of cool things that you get to do while you're in the Navy. Everyone serves on ships, mostly squadrons, whatever, submarines, whatever, right? But when you have the opportunity to do something, right? If I could have served, at the Arizona, I would have. The Constitution, I would have. RDCing, I would have, except I don't like the cold and shore duty wasn't in route for me there.
I did an inauguration when I was up in D.C. because you get one chance to do that. I didn't care who was elected. I was just like, I get to do this inauguration, stand on the side of the road. Heck yeah, I'm doing it.
Yeah. So, when it was like, hey, pre-com to stay in San Diego, I was like, all right, well, let's find the silver linings of this, right? Who gets to bring a ship to life?
Yeah.
Plank owner.
Yeah. Less than 10% of the Navy.
Right. So, okay, I'll do that. Now, my whole kind of game plan got screwed up, right? And I've talked about that plenty, not to be that dead horse. But now I'm on a ship that was already commissioned. Technically, I'm not a plank owner, right? No big deal. But the other part of that was, and I have a really good friend that plank owner of the Montgomery, right? And when I watched him go through that process of building the crew, right? That's what like spoke to me of like, yo, if you could go to a pre-com and take all these sailors that are just brand new, something brand new to the Navy, just brand new to the pre-com, and you can set the culture, right? Catchy word, the culture of this ship that could last as long as it lasts, but hopefully forever, right? I was like, oh shit, hold on now. Wait, that's what I like to do. I like to mentor. I like to talk to sailors. I like to give them a vibe where they're like, we're just like supply department, right? So it's like, I could do that. I could fuck with that, so, sometimes you got to find it. What worked, what doesn't work, this and that. But, there's something. So when we got to the crew and everything and my last ship, I'm like, I've never played sports, but I'm big on like the hype. Right, if you're gonna do a drill or something, like in my last ship, like we had this old HC1. He's probably like the oldest guy in the Navy or something, right? He'd fucking break us down, get us all hyped for the main space and everything, and it was fucking cool, right? And then our words was nobility and power. So like it'd be him, or it started with like the CMC and the new CO that we had, and they'd say nobility, and then everyone else would yell power. And of course, when the first time it was like, this is corny. And then you got the disgruntled, they're like, and then you got the other that are just doing it. And, me in between were like, all right, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing, right?
Yeah, I go all in. Let's do
it. Right.
Yeah.
So then I was like, but eventually it kind of caught on. And so I get to my new crew, and I was like, that's step one. We need to come up with something.
Yeah, something that we can hype, some hype.
Yeah, something, right? And a good crew, a great crew. But I was like, all right, what was it? We're gold crew. So what goes with gold? Solid. Right?
Okay.
Solid fucking gold, right? Like if an album went solid gold, like back in the day, that was it, right? What was more valuable than solid gold? You know what I mean? So now it's still working, like more catching on, right? But now, like when we do anything, not every time, but it's just like it's like your challenge words, right? Like when you're doing tactical movements, like right. If anyone walks by and is like, "Hey, solid," correct answer is gold.
Solid gold.
Right. And it's corny as fuck.
It's a little thing.
Yes. And it's corny. I'm not even going to lie to you.
Hey, it's like a little secret handshake, a little fist bump. It's something that you guys get to share it could be stupid, it could be corny, but it's fun too, right?
Yes. And that's the other thing I tell everyone. Like, if we're going to be here, right, why aren't we having fun while we're here? 1,670.
That's the suck, right? Yeah,
it's the suck. We might as well have fun while we're here. If you could come up with something better, do it. Otherwise, we're just going to keep doing this, right? So we're doing exchange of command. So we have both crews out there, blue and gold. Got both COs. I think Commodore had already left, maybe not. I think he did, right? And someone like, hey, Suppo, right? And I was like, looking back, they're like, yo, you gonna do it? I was like, no, you do it. And then someone was like, all right. And they're like, solid. And we did it with the blue crew right there. And then everyone was like, yo. And it's like, yo, we gangbanging on them. I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, we are.
Who, like, yes. Yeah, sister crews, one shit, one team, one fight, whatever. Let them know. This Gold Crew's here now.
And think about the best chiefs you ever had, right? What were they good at? Building a team, right?
Yeah.
It was taking care of things like shit, but the team environment that you can create, like, that's what makes a good leader, like making the team and making a place, like you said, the culture, the environment that supports that, and like people want to be part of the team, and like you always have your onesie, twosie outliers, but even a team that's going to take care of your outliers, but be together, be united. I mean, that you can't beat that shit, dude.
No, not at all. It's a beautiful thing too when you can start seeing it happen, right, in like real time. The team cohesion, everything coming together, and you see all the different rates. And what's cool about this LCS community, one of the few things, right, is being that you're such a small crew, right, under 70, there's really no room for someone to be like, I'm not doing that.
Oh,
right? I'm not dressing out.
You got to do 20 things, motherfucker.
Today, right, there were lieutenants, there were chiefs, everyone that was outside of a training team and outside of a like locker leadership position was in an FFE, ready to get after it, right? There are people talking shit. One lieutenant to the MPA talking about, hey, if he needs a real engineer, let him know I'm here. And it's like, ooh, you like that's an MPA LDO, like.
Yeah, there's probably a chief or a senior chief back in the day.
Right, well, yeah, prior chief, with this, it's like, but it's good. Yeah. I'm like, talk that shit. The captain heard it and was like, who was that? I was like, that's your swole down there, sir. He's like, oh, like kind of, chuckling, like you might want to shut up, but also like you could tell you like it. The CO was out there walking, checking things. It's that team building and team cohesion that's developing that turns into that can turn into something great where you hope that sailors look back at it and be like, man, that was the one.
I remember. Yeah, I remember being on that ship. I remember being with those people. I remember, like, that's the thing, right? But that's also something they take into the future with them. Right?
Yeah.
And so they're going to compare their next place they go to. Like, man, that's not, was it the place you're currently at sucks more than the place you're going? And then you get there, then it sucks, right? But that mentality always go with them. And they'll realize, like, hey, that was the shit that made that special. And that's making good sailors, right? Making good leaders. And that's if I have to leave something behind, that's what hopefully I make good leaders. I don't care about sailors. I want you to just be a good human and be a good leader, and everything else is going to follow.
Yeah, no, well, you're absolutely right. You said something real important. Good humans, right? Good people. We'll take it back a little bit. When I was talking to my third class about if he was map ready or not, and he said no. And I said, okay, well, think about the things. I said, because what you need to also be is self-aware, right? You need to be self-aware of where you're actually at, right?
Honest.
Right? Honest with yourself and what you need to get there. And I always think back when I talk about that to the season you ran with Chad and that individual.
Man.
And the conversations I had with that individual, right? And how, like, I told him, like, bro, like, your self-awareness is nowhere near where we need to be in this moment in time, right? What do you remember from that season?
So oblivious, right? So oblivious.
Yeah. Like, what do you remember from that season of just everything, right? And
actually, so the season, and I have regrets because I did want to combine with somebody. Like as soon as we knew we had one Chief Select, I went to the CMC and I was like, hey man, we got to combine. And I already did the groundwork to combine with Third Fleet at that time. And he's like, no, we're going to handle our own. I'm like, man, this ain't going to work. It ain't going to work because you can't, the thing you're trying to teach during a Chief season is the camaraderie, is the team building and thing. And if you don't have a team, you can't expect the Chief to be a Chief Select. You can't, those bonds are going to be made. So I knew that was going to be a challenge. And then him as an individual, like I said, he was just oblivious, right? He was not self-aware, just out there. And I don't even know how to describe, like, I don't know. How would you describe it?
Yeah. Well, that was my first season on the other side, right?
Yeah.
Or no, excuse me. That was the second. Yeah, that was the second. So by then, I'm the super salty chief, and I got it all figured out, right? But
we all.
Yeah, I just, it's interesting because the self-awareness thing, right? The not being able to read a room, and I shared this story, and I shared it then too, of like him sitting right over here in the garage with me, and trying to take a picture of my son, like me holding my son as my son is like it hurt his head and is crying, right? And that's how my son's like 2. Right. The year before that, my son was in my arms at final night, right? Just a year prior, right? As a baby. So my son's like a year and a half at that. Just two, right? And I was just like, what the fuck are you doing? Right?
Well,
like,
why is that the moment? Like, why not? Yeah. So show some concern. Why not, be involved in the moment? Why be so detached?
Right. Right. And it was really, really confusing. I learned a lot, right? Because I went pretty hard that season.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're in.
Yeah, and I was just like, well, what? And it was one of those ones like maybe I don't need to go so hard all the time, right? There's a master chief that talks to me about it. Not that I was going too much, but just kind of gave me some perspective on where I was at and how I approach things. And I say it definitely helped me, but at the same time, it was one of those like, well, they deserved it.
Everything needs to be calculated, right? And that's the whole thing. Like you need to have a plan, you need to have a reason, and you got to keep the emotion out of it. That's a hard thing to do, especially as young chiefs, because you just want to be like, man, I remember when I was getting my fucking shit beat in, and you're thinking about that when you're not like, what's happening in this situation? What's the best way to address? I mean, you have to be very calculated in it, and that's the hardest thing about running a season is keeping I'll just call them the young guns, keep the younger chiefs like, hey, let's rein it in. You can go off on this kid, but you need to go off for the right reason. You can, but think about why you're doing it. And I hopefully, like when I was during the season, I was relaying that in FRB when I pre-brief an event. Hey, we're going to do this thing. What's our goal? How are we going to do it? What are we going to say? And that's really important because I went through a time when I made chief. It wasn't even what it was 10 years prior to that. But like, there was no rules, man. It was just you're just getting your shit pushed.
There were no MCPON guidelines.
No.
Yeah.
I won't even talk about the shit we did, but I didn't have to eat anything. I'll tell you that much. I was after eating stuff.
Yeah.
But, having a reason to do something is really important, and having a goal, instead of just, making somebody feel the pain to feel the pain, which I think we did good in that season. Actually, the thing that pissed me off the most was right at the end when we couldn't come together as a mess. That's what pissed me off about that. Like we were divided. Hard divided.
Yeah. And
you couldn't convince one side or the other side. And it was, me and Jason are sitting right in the middle. And we're talking about it. Like, hey, how do we bring all these guys together? And it was just divided. That was the hardest part of that season for me. That broke my heart. Like, that was hard. Yeah.
Looking back at that, I mean, I never thought about it like that, really. I mean, I was right. Right. I mean, like, there's the other 50% that needed to be convinced, right?
But I'm saying same thing, right? Same thing.
Sure.
Yeah, you're right there. You're on one side. There was the other side. There's two sides, and you're still like, I was right, right?
Yeah. I mean, and I'll tell people like, every chief should be thinking that, right? Every chief should have been in there thinking they were right. But I mean, it's one of those things. Still, I just kind of wonder, like, when am I going to see the season where the mess does say no?
Oh, I've seen plenty of them.
And me, like, I haven't, right? There's that one and where it didn't happen, whatever, but like where there was this, decision, right? But I just sit back and like, am I ever? Is it going to happen? And I look at it kind of like evals, right? It's like, well, Are we really going to give everyone just an MP? There's going to, like, this command has 0 EPs, right? We have EP meaning 2 ranks above, and we have no one that's performing 2 ranks above. So everyone's MP. Are you ever going to see that?
You're going to do it?
No.
Well, actually, so truth and reporting is a whole other ball game, which I've never had a problem doing. But what I'll do is, because you have to have your 20% EP, 20% MP, 60% P. But what I'll do is I'll take those breakouts, but I pull them under the Riska. And
that's always a good way to send the message.
Well, and they don't know. Like I said, most chiefs don't even realize what value that is. And even on my last eval cycle, that's what I did with my guys who weren't performing. Sure, you had an EP and an MP, both of them were under Riska. And I told the 06 that. I was like, hey, whatever you do, this is what number they're going to be at the end. Oh yeah, but that might mess up their. I said, yeah, they said they're not performing. I said, so you can give them an EP because that's what we're supposed to do. Read the instruction. I said, but you don't have to make him higher than your fucking average. He's not. Is he performing higher than your average? No. Okay, don't fucking make him.
Yeah, and I mean that's sad if a chief doesn't understand what's happening there.
Well, and that's why old boy ended up crying because I explained it to him. I just told him. I said, hey, here's what I did, and I said, because the thing is, I don't have time. Not that I don't have time, but I'm not willing to bullshit you, right? When it comes to performance, like if you're not doing what you need to do, I'm going to tell you right now. And I've just, I don't hold you to my standards. I know I have a different like work ethic than other people, so I don't do that. But I have an expectation for a chief or a first class, especially like, hey, you're going to be performing at this level. Again, if I have to tell you what to do, like you're already out, you're done because like you should be predicting or working or trying to, wait, make me tell you no. Don't fucking wait for me to tell you to do something. Make me tell you no.
No, for sure. Yeah, one of the things I was like, hey, I'm gonna be doing this. Govern yourself accordingly, right? Because like 1, you're an adult. 2, you should already know what needs to happen, right? So just
you didn't get here by accident,
right? And plus, like in this small ass crew, I ain't got time for it.
No, you have time to manage what every person's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I'm this department head role / DLCPO role, right? Where I got to go to all these different meetings. Can you guys just go do stuff, please? And my crew's the best. They're on it.
Hey, but you created an environment that made them that way, right?
I contributed. I got there and I was immediately told that I have awesome sailors. And I was like, oh, thank God. So. I got a sharp knife already. Now I'm just gonna, teach.
How do I hone it? How do I hone it?
Right, or how do I teach them how to use it to be killing machines? And that's where we're at now.
Well, you don't have to walk in and change shit either. That's the other thing, right? Like, because a lot of leaders will walk into a job and it's like, oh, I got to change it up. But why? Is it broken? Like, if it's broken, what are you trying to fix, man? Like, stop.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's an awesome crew. I know that some of them are listening, and I can't fucking hype them up enough. I'm fucking all for it. I posted earlier today, too. I said today's lunch was bacon chicken melts, fucking tuna melts, chili cheese dogs. Like yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know, man. It's something special, and I want it to keep going. And I want other people to realize, like, it doesn't start with me, right? It doesn't have to start with your chief. It just can start with you and something that you want to do, right? And you just got to go do it. You got to find it and you got to go do it. You got to want it too, right? You got to want to be something special. You got to want. And the crazy thing is, like, we were talking about like sailors that come in and they're like, I'm doing 20. I got 2 third classes. When I talked to them and I checked in, they're like, yeah, I want to stay and do 20. I got 2 first classes that are like, yeah, we're here for it to make chief. I said, well, how long y'all been in? And they're like 9 years. Oh, so they're like 8-year, 9-year first classes. I'm like, what about LDO? I love being a chief, but
I make a 10-year chief. I'm talking to him about warrant right now. They're like, oh, but I want to be a master chief. Why? I said, you're wasting your effort, you're wasting your energy. I said, you can't take. I go, you could. Not only can you take care of your family better, I was like, you can influence so many more people if you put on fucking bars. I was like, go officer. I said, be a fucking anchor chucker. I said, because you are going to affect so much change and help so many more people. I never looked at it that way. I was like, don't, man, you're young. Don't, like, do what you can do.
Yeah, and the thing is, at like that young of an age, you can still just do 20. You will put on 04. If you're putting on first class, okay, you're going to put on 04. And that's all you need to put on. You don't need to, and
if you're still hungry, you can keep going.
For sure.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah. Like what's 05? Well, go do an at-sea tour, right?
Yeah,
even if you have
command,
to, right? Even in the supply world, I don't know where there's 04 department heads out on a ship. Right? Usually they're 04 out on shore somewhere, and then if they're making 05, they're doing another staff duty or something, and then if they're looking for 06, they're going to a carrier or probably, like amphib, like big deck amphib, right? Essex or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's that's not for me, right? I was like late to it and stuff. Not for me. I didn't want to start over. But you're looking at if you're a sailor out there and you're putting on first class under 10 years, just think about it. I'm not saying we don't need you in the mess. I'm just saying
you can do so much more out there in the world, right? Straight up. I'm gonna tell you a funny thing. I just realized this. So I had to write my Master Chief eval, and so I made Master Chief so late that I'm not eligible to go CMC. I'm not eligible to commission. Right? I can only be a dirty rated Master Chief. That's all I can be. All right. So I'm writing this eval. This was a sobering moment for me. So I'm writing it and I'm putting all the shit in and I'm getting it good. And I was like, man. And I called my buddy who's a CTM Master Chief, real senior one too. I was like, hey man, what do you put in your eval? He started laughing. He goes, you just realized that nobody's ever going to read your evaluation again. I said, ever. He goes, the person who signs it. He goes, that's the only person that will ever read another one of your evaluations. And I was like, holy shit. Like
it means nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, my eval means nothing anymore.
There's no E10.
No, there's no E10. I can't commission and I can't go CMC. There's no board. There's no continuation board. I'm already enlisted until 30.
What are you, 5.0 down the board?
No, it doesn't matter.
6 sentences.
I'll make it 2 Like, who fucking cares? You will never read it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. That's that's crazy. I guess I've never thought of that, even myself. Right, like I thought of there's a Master Chief we served with that was like he was gonna say something, then he wasn't, and then he says, "Fuck it, I'm not I can't make E10," and then he spilled it, and I was like, "Well, yeah, you can." There's you're there.
I had to explain to my folks what do you do? So you made Master Chief because they don't understand what it is. I wish you would have got to come to my pinning. It was we had a good time. My folks, everybody came out, and part of my speech, I wrote a little speech for him. Because if it was up to me, when I made Master Chief, I would have just put on my other anchor and called it. But it was important to my folks and some of my family. They all flew out and we did a thing. I gave a speech. And I said, hey, my family doesn't even know what I do. They don't understand any of this. Yeah. I said, but they think it's a big deal. And that's good enough for me, right? Just because they think it's a big deal, that's good enough, right? That's the thing about promoting. I'm not doing this shit, right? I don't do this shit just to I didn't do it to make Master Chief. And now, as a Master Chief, and so what I was getting to in that story was, they said, well, what do you do? I said, I tell people no. What? I said, I walk into meetings and everybody's fucking scared of the boss or whatever it is. I said, but nobody can fucking touch me anymore. I said, if it's fucked up, I say it's fucked up. I said, if it's like, hey, we're not doing that. I said, I'm the guy who says no. Everybody else wants to fucking say yes all the time. I said, I get paid to say no. I said, if it's good, I don't say a goddamn word. If it's working, don't say a word. That's what I get paid to do now.
Yeah.
I tell people no. If it's good, it's good.
It's gotta be fun.
It's stupid. It's just I told you, the most humbling thing ever.
Yeah.
And it's funny going from senior chief to Master Chief, because even going from chief to senior chief, you can feel a transition because now you're in charge of chiefs, right? When they fuck up, you fuck up, right? Yeah. So you can feel that weight shift. When you make Master Chief, the way people look at you changes. Just immediately. You have the 2 stars. You walk into a meeting and they're like, "Hey, what do you think, Master Chief?" They want to know. And it's like, I can just be honest. I don't have to worry about what you think. And I've done it with the admirals that we have at our compound. Though I walk into a meeting, people keep me out of meetings with the admiral because they're like, what the fuck's Master Chief going to say? We can't let him in there because he's going to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Because that's what I get paid to do.
Man, I was telling, again, on the recent one, referencing it, right? I used to want to be that, I used to want to be the supply Master Chief. Right? Just like every community has.
You don't now?
No.
Why not?
Because I want to be at home with my kids.
That's fucking way more important.
Yeah.
All day.
And my mentor, he always told me, he's known me my whole career since my first duty station, right? And he always, knows me better than anyone else, right? Except for my wife, right? Of course. But, he was like, once you have that first kid, he's like, because he knew he was not Joe Navy, right? He was just here and whatever, but I was, right, kind of opposites, and he just put up with me because the way I did it, he could just it was annoying but fun, and we just clicked after a while, right? And he was just like, you're so Joe Navy, and we understand it. You could be all of that, but once you have kids, everything is going to change, and it did. I had my son right after I put on Chief, and although like both things, like it's a weird thing because my career pinnacle has now happened, and now my life pinnacle happened immediately after.
You got balance, man. Like you've found your balance right now, right?
Yeah,
and you're in a great spot. I'm jealous.
I mean, I'm trying to balance. It's still tough, but
it's always a battle.
Yeah, but like at that moment, I was like, man, this Chief thing, like I just got it right, 13 years, right, and it was like, man, like I'm here, but I don't even fucking want to be anymore because. Yeah. And then where we were stationed, best duty station, fucking for shore duty ever. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I just got to pour everything. We got poured so much that I had a second kid. But like that, and it's like none of that. And there's a very small little piece. That when you share those stories, it's like, man, I would love to get paid to tell motherfuckers no, right, and have no cares in the world. And I still think of in a way that I do, right. But I still, like, as a chief, have to find that balance in the mission of, like, okay, I can't just flat say no, not because of eval or anything, but because I need to find a way to meet their yes.
Right, yeah, this is the mission thing. Yeah,
right.
Well, honestly, that's why you got the nines, right? They're going to be the guy who's the hard no. You're the guy who's going to be trying to talk reason to him. But the thing that resonates with me about your story just now, right, when I talked about, like, you get to where we're at by being selfless, right? You're working, but then you get to start doing some shit for yourself and your family, right? That's for you. Like, you love your family, and it's so great to see you sitting here and just say that, because that's what you're passionate about right now. The Navy, great. You're always going to be passionate about the sailors and your mission and that stuff. But you have a balance. You have a balance because you know how much you love your kids. You love being a dad. You love being a husband.
Oh yeah, brother.
It's right there. That's, dude, I'm jealous of that. That's the best shit.
Yeah, it's something. I still see the people. Like, kind of looking like, man, like, you have it. Are you thinking about going to the SEA, and no, I'm not. But it's one of those, like, they're like, well, what do you mean? I was like,
you said career pinnacle. You got it.
Yeah, I was like, and that doesn't mean I don't want to be a senior chief, because I'd love more retirement money. But it means that my PRD and EOS are matched. And it's not changing.
Being a Master Chief is great, but like a big chunk of that is like Master Chief retirement.
Yeah,
and that's a selfish thing. I tell people that I'm staying in as long as I can, because if you look at the numbers that I make when I retire at 30 or I retire at 32, I said, it's stupid money.
Yeah,
I said, so I'm doing that for me. I said, I'm still going to keep doing this. Like, I'm passionate about the mission, passionate about the sailors and stuff, but like, I'm making a selfish decision now, right? And that's what you're doing, and it's selfish in the best way, because you're being selfish to take care of your family.
Yeah,
it's special, man.
Yeah, what do you think about when you're saying, like, the retirement and everything like that, right? So I guess, I don't know. So at what year, because I've met a lot of retirees, right, at different spots. I've met a lot that say, I wish I would have retired at 20 instead of 24, 22, 23, right? And senior chiefs,
you're
whatever.
Talking hundreds of dollars, right? That's the difference. Hundreds of dollars.
So for you, like, what do you think that cusp of is, like, of staying in it? So and retiring at the 30, you know what I mean?
All right, so 30 is 75%, right?
Yeah.
I have a pretty good calculator. And if I think about it, I'll share it with you. It's called Military Retire. You have to pay for it. It's an app. But it does the entire computation, including 2% pay raises, and it'll pull out, like, if you have disability, it'll pile that. You can calculate everything you want to, like every level of it. So if I'm 100%. Right, and I did the math on if I'm not or if I am, but I likely will be, because I'm old and fucked up. Everything's bad. I don't even tell you the number. The number's stupid. But let's say if I do 30 years and I'm making between $6,000 and $7,000 a month, right? If I do 32 years, I'm pushing $7,000 to $8,000 a month, right?
For retirement?
Yeah, for the rest of my life.
Shit.
So over 30 years is a $800 pay jump, right?
Damn.
What's 75% of $800? right? And everybody's like, well, I was like, dude, we're talking over $500 a month to go over 30. Like, why would I not do that? Like,
Yeah.
$100 out of pop. That's like when you're doing like every year you do over 20, you make $200 a year to retirement. So your difference is $2,200 to $2,600, right? Now you push to Master Chief pay and your scale's shifting and getting bigger. That's where I make that, like I said, the selfish decision. Like, it's a big number. Like, it's I don't have to fucking work anymore.
Yeah.
And so, but what you're saying is, so you get out at 20 and you're still relevant in your job field and you can still pick up another job. You have your pension making $2,000 to $3,000 a month, which is going to be decent money. And then you're making another $100K on top of that.
Shout out Chad.
Yeah. I think he's making more than $100K.
Well, I don't know how much he's making. I'm just saying he's like
Chad, Chad, I know you're going to listen to this later. You make too much money, bitch.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, there's that route, right? Out at 20, doing really good as a civilian, or does it just come down to, like, lucked up and kept making rank? So it's just like, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I?
There you go. But how many people do you know who made Master Chief under 20 and didn't do 30? I know a lot.
Do you?
Yeah.
I mean, you've been around, again, a lot longer than me, so I mean, I can't say that I have. But it's one of those, like, I know people that made Master Chief really fast, and they're still just kind of kicking around.
Yeah, well, the thing is, there's no more growth.
Yeah.
It's hard to do something for 10 years in the same capacity.
Yeah, and that's where I think I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, because we're constantly progressing, right?
Right, and then it's like one of those also, like, for me, the family aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's something I've told people, like, so I could retire, and now it's going to be like 23, I think, or something, right? It's 4 more years, 21, 22 years, I think, total, whatever it is, right? Or I could be like, hey, I want to be a Master Chief and take all the billets and everything. But then I throw this into it, right? Now, when I retire, my son will be something like, 4 more, like 8, 9, okay? Or I could shoot for all the stars and retire at 30, 32, and he will be 19.
Yeah, 18, 19. Yeah, and you've missed how much, right?
Right.
Because that's that sacrifice you're giving again.
Yeah,
and that's that decision you got to make.
Yeah, and I just look at it as like I don't know. Did you ever think about that, or were your kids already older?
Old enough, yeah. My daughter's 23 now.
Okay, so then it wasn't ever like really.
It wasn't an option because even when I was hitting 20, she was 18, getting ready to go to college.
Okay, so you had her very young, so she grew up with you as you.
Right. Yeah. She all she knew was the military, and we'd been in that whole time, so that wasn't a deal. And one of the things we won't go into it, but yeah, I've me and my wife and I kind of mentioned it. We're recently separated, so then not only did I make Master Chief, I'm a single Master Chief. So all that family time that I did enjoy and I did love, kind of it's kind of slipped out. I can put energy towards back to the military because that's right there. So it's no skin off my back. I'm not sacrificing anything to do what I do now, whereas you would be. And that's the difference. And you can't sacrifice the time with your family. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, and that's the again, when I look at it in this whole big picture, right? Not just the retirement and money and things like that. It's like there's other people in my life that are more important than the Navy that their clock is ticking too, right?
And you owe them.
Yes. And I just wonder, like, it's a question for listeners out there, if there's anyone older, like, did they ever consider that? And what in their decision making led them to, yes, it's worth it. You know what I mean? And like, a lot of people, listeners, I don't know if my father-in-law is a retired Master Chief, right? So, but his time was, he retired in 2007. He came in 77. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's a different time, immigrant, everything like that. Like, my wife's Filipino and everything. So like different times, but like same sacrifice. But I said, it's one of those things of like, in today's generation, who's sitting back? Like, yeah, you know what? Let me go ahead and give those 10 more years, fuck it. Little Timmy will be all right.
Well, and most people, like, I'll tell you what, that's not the commonality. That's why I said you have guys who make Master Chief early and they retire because they have their kids and they realize, you know what? I've given the service this much of my life, and now it's time to let me give it back, because I owe them now, and that's important, and that's what makes good chiefs. That's what makes our humble servant leaders are the ones who can realize, like, hey, my family is more important than this. This machine is gonna keep turning. It doesn't need me, right?
So you hit on something there, right? But if those ones that are recognizing that are pulling out, then what are we left with?
Dude,
I mean,
you
you're a
have to
great
have
guy, JD. I'm not dissing on you, brother, but you know what I mean? Like,
you have to have that vacuum, right? Because this is for that next generation that you're sitting here that you're so proud of, your little LS2s and LS3s who are going to make chief. Like, you got to create a hole so they can keep moving up.
yeah.
You're just enabling them, right?
But I'm saying, like, what about the ones that are not recognizing? I guess it's like the ones that are not recognizing, like, family's more important. There's other things more important, and they're still kicking around. You're like,
What's the majority? It's people like you. I'll tell you that right now.
you think so?
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
Well, I mean, I guess so, because Mass Chiefs are only 1%.
there you go. Well,
Right.
not just that, but like most of the match chiefs I know, like they don't. The only reason I'm staying in is because I have nothing pulling me somewhere else. But like one of my best friends, who's the other most senior CTM Master Chief, he's been in the Navy 4 months longer than I have. And he has a son who's an E5 in the Air Force, and he has a daughter who's in college, and he just found out his wife's pregnant. Just found out, right? And he's like, "Hey man, I'm gonna drop my papers." Cool, man, because he could do 30, and he always wanted to, but he's like, you know what? And I think about people like that, and they're like, that's what's more common. You know, you don't get in my situation where I don't have anything dragging me anywhere else, so I'll just stay in. Most time, you know, at our level, that's when the shift is starting to happen, right? Where it's like, I'm not giving all of myself to the Navy anymore because I have these other people who deserve it. They deserve it. You know, they got me here. And that's, you know, those friends, those families, your kids, like all of that stuff. And you shift back. And that's the majority of people. You know, I'm an outlier because I said nothing's dragging me anywhere. So I can just, you know, put the time to the Navy. And I'm doing it selfishly because I want the money, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's
it's important to say that, though, right? Because it's the truth, right? I think, you know, someone once said on, you know, it was CJ who's been on regularly, right? And he said he was talking to a Master Chief once, and he asked the Master Chief, like, why do you do it? And in this dramatic fashion, you know, the Master Chief turns around and points out to the hangar bay and was like, I do it for them, right? And it's like, really?
do you?
Really, Master? Like,
You
really?
you kind of do.
I mean, yes, to a certain point, but
But look at that retirement check. Yeah, I had my Master Chief mentor. So when I made Senior Chief, his name was I'll even say his name. His name was Mike Kiker. He was the IT Master Chief. This guy was like the meanest, nastiest. Just everybody hated him, but I loved him, right? Because he was honest, brutally honest. He goes, "Hey man, what are you doing to make Master Chief?" I was like, "Mike," I said, "I wasn't doing anything to make Senior Chief." I was like, I'm not. That's not where my head is. I just want to take care of sailors. I just want to do the mission. I said, "You're not giving the speech." Same thing I told you. And he goes, "Hey JD, what's better than being a Master Chief?" I said, "Fuck if I know." He goes, "Me neither. Get the fuck out of my office." That was me neither. That's like, what's better than being a Master Chief? I don't know. Me neither.
No, being a retired Master Chief, I guess, right?
That's what he did. He retired.
Yeah.
He was what was the other thing he said? He was like, "Hey man, I need you to do these 74 E6 evals." And I was like, "Fuck man, that's a lot." He goes, "Hey, you know what makes a fucking amazing Master Chief?" And I was like, "I don't know." He goes, "An outstanding Senior Chief. Get your ass to work." And he fucking shut the door in my face. Like and I, you know, the funny thing is, and it wasn't like that dude was like, he would just drive you to do better, you know? Like, that was the type of shit I think about it. Because he was the same way. He didn't have kids. He did his 30, and he knew it was time to go. He wasn't trying to push it. I don't know if he did 30. But he was like, "Hey, I'm doing this shit for myself now." Like, when you get to that point, that's that shift. It happens with everybody. You know, if anybody, I had a really, really amazing third class who worked for me. She won Military Performer of the Year for the entire NSA enterprise when I worked for the NSA. And she was this little third class, just deployed all the fucking time, just stellar. And when she won, she had to give a speech in front of like all these 4-stars and shit. And she talked about selfless leaders. Like, that was her entire speech, was like, "Hey, you know, I joined," and she was getting out of the Navy. This is my hardest thing with her was she's getting out of the Navy. She was the best sailor I had. She's like, "I'm getting out." I was like, "Why? You're amazing." She goes, "Well, I joined the service thinking that, you know, everybody in the military is this other class of human who are better and who are greater and who are, you know, are out there just sacrificing to stuff." And she goes, "I got in here and I realized that's really not the case. Like, that most of the people are not like that." I was like, "Yeah, you're right." And she goes, "So she couldn't keep doing it because it wasn't the caliber of human that she thought she was getting, which is, I mean, the truth. Most sailors or service members are human, flawed. Like, they're not doing it for, heroism and shit. They're just doing it because I want college money, or I just, didn't want to go to jail, or whatever the fuck your reason is, right? But she gave this speech. She's talked about, she spent a lot of time in Afghanistan and Iraq, and she said, hey, I met people who were selfless leaders, who would literally sacrifice anything for their fellow service member, for their fellow man, for who, throwing their bodies on grenades to protect babies and shit. She goes, these are the people. Like, this is who you want to emulate. And that's the thing, like the selfless leaders. And that's the minority of what we have. How many leaders do you know that you've worked for that are truthfully selfless? I don't know them. I don't know them. I didn't work with those guys, the SEALs and that shit. The guys who are just like, yeah, they're not doing it really for themselves. They just do it because they know, hey, this is the right thing to do. I will always be they're heroes, but they don't even know they're fucking heroes. They're just doing the right, like, those are the ones. And so that's something that resonates. I think about that all the time. Like, can I live up to this standard? Even though I'm doing a little bit of the stuff for myself, which you are too, but when it comes to your sailors and it comes to the mission, are you doing that to benefit yourself? You're doing it to benefit them. And then that's what makes the good leader. You're benefiting all those other people.
What do you think about so I tell my guys all the time, like, look, we're gonna do all this, and make no mistake, you're gonna get what you need to get out of it, right? But also, inherently, the way the system works, I will make senior chief because you guys are fucking awesome. Yeah, so don't think it's for me, right? Don't think I want to steal your glory. Don't think anything like that. Just the way this system works, you're going to be so fucking awesome that I will make senior chief.
You will make me well, that's the thing. And I keep talking about how, like, humbling making Master Chief was. I didn't do it. Like, I didn't do that. Like, and I tell people, I did not do that. Like, all these people who I've worked for, who have worked for me, who, we have these great relationships. We've created these teams, and it's like that environment of everybody's just supporting each other. Those are the guys. My family, my family who supported me through everything. They got me here. I didn't do it. I was just fucking came to work and did what I was supposed to do all the time. Those are the ones, right? And that's the thing. If you're not doing it for yourself, to an extent, right? Like, we're drawing these lines, you're going to keep advancing, right? Because you're taking care of the sailors. You take care of sailors, they take care of you. That's what happens. And not intentionally, because they're doing great things. That just makes you fucking shine, dude.
Yeah. Let's start wrapping this up. Let's go with what would be your final shout out to whoever it want to be, whether it's the junior sailor, the chiefs out there, the civilians that listen. What would you tell them, like the Navy is like, or when you're at 27 years, you get what I'm saying? Like what is it? What has this been and like meant to you, your journey?
Oh, that's a hard question. Why do you have to ask the hard questions?
I don't know. I'm trying to be like the next Maury. I'm gonna get a fucking lie detector.
I'll tell you what. I guess I don't even look at it like that. This honestly, when I joined the Navy, I was just trying to get out of Kansas. Like, let me do something else. Like, don't be a cowboy. That's all. I mean, that's what I did before. I was a cowboy farmer. Don't do this the rest of your life. Experience the world. I've never looked at it. It's a job, right? But it's also, and I'm passionate about anything I do. I've never looked at it other than like a job that and I'm going to say I love it, man. I don't, fuck the Navy. Like, I don't love the Navy, but my personal relationships keep me going. The friends I meet, the kids I mentor, the fucking, the leaders that I get to help influence, and the stuff that I can make better for people is what keeps me doing it. But it's the job, man. Love the job. You don't have to like all the bullshit. So many people don't love what they do. And I would say probably, let's say 60%, we don't love what we do. Right? There's just so much bullshit we got to deal with. But are you making, the world better for the people around you, the people that work for you, with you, your family, right? And if by being in the Navy, I could do that, that I could stay in, right? And that was it. When I go home and I'm talking to my family who are like way political and they want to talk their shit on your current president or whoever, right? They want to like talk their stuff, and I was like, man, I keep doing this so you can sit there and be narrow-minded and be a little racist or be a little asshole or whatever the fuck it is. I sit here and do this so you can be you. That's I'm willing to do this so you can do that. And the other piece of that is think about some of the hardest stuff you've done in the Navy. And I think you've heard some of my stories, and we won't even go into those now. But those hard things, the stuff that's like when you lose sailors and the stuff that really affects you, I don't want somebody else to have to do that, right? So the more of that I can absorb, just to so somebody else doesn't have to do it, like that's okay. I can handle that, and I think that's the stuff that does it. So really, the Navy's the job, right? But it's the personal relationships and the people that get to influence me and help me grow, and the stuff that I can give to other people. That's what keeps me doing it.
Awesome. JD, bro, I appreciate you very much for reaching out and coming through. It was amazing talking to you. More, we've shot the shit plenty, over the last few years and everything, but having you on and divulging a lot about your career, your life, things you've gone through is very enlightening. And things, I heard a lot tonight that I never knew, because most of the time we're just shooting the shit about, whatever in the mess. But
this was fun, man. I loved it. Loved this.
Yeah, bro, I appreciate it very much. Yeah, brother, it's fucking awesome. It was a great 2 hours. Hey, don't forget, for more information on how you can support the podcast, please visit us at anchor.fm/Bravo Zulu podcast. The information, views, and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely of myself, Joshua Moore, and the individuals involved, and do not necessarily represent the DOD, DON, or those of the respected institutions or organizations. Thanks for joining us.
In 2 hours? Did we hit 2 hours?
Yeah. 2 hours, 4 minutes. About 2 hours.